By simply consuming this golden elixir, one could attain 1 billion years of cultivation. Yet I had intended to bestow this entire basket of sacred pills upon my disciples. In the end, the entire sect ridiculed me for it. They mocked me, asking how a talentless trash like me could possibly possess supreme-grade elixirs. Have you spent your days sleeping until your brain has rotted away? They jeered. Even the disciple I had nurtured for 2.5 years sought to betray the sect for nothing more than a low-grade flying sword. You see, I possess a system where mere laziness allows me to share in the cultivation gains of my disciples. And because I am accustomed to lying idle, my power grows effortlessly. My system had rewarded me with a peak-grade 5th-tier Lingyun pill, which I intended to gift to my only disciple. I reached out to lead Lin Huaiyuan away, but the one who had remained silent all this time suddenly spoke up. Master, I do not wish to return. His voice was frigid, etched with a chilling, absolute indifference. The year I entered Yunfeng was entirely due to my ignorance, and I was deceived by others. I never imagined that my master would be a peak lord who lacks both skill and resources. Over these past years, you haven't even provided me with a single second-tier elixir. Do you truly possess the qualifications to be my master? You are nothing more than a pathetic, talentless fraud. Jianfeng Peak Lord, Chao Xijiang, erupted into laughter, his expression brimming with arrogance. Zhang Xuanjiao, did you hear the words of Lin Huaiyuan? It is not that I am poaching your disciple. It is that your disciple refuses to acknowledge a mediocre amateur like you. As he spoke, he retrieved an exquisite jade pillbox from his spatial ring. Today, in the presence of everyone here, this third-tier harmony pill shall serve as the tribute for Lin Huaiyuan's initiation. From this day forth, you are the direct disciple of me, Chao Xijiang. I thank you, master. Lin Huaiyuan stepped forward to accept the elixir, his face flushed. It was clear he was overcome with excitement. Ding, the master-disciple relationship has been severed. Hearing the system notification, my heart turned cold. Have you considered this carefully? A stroke of fate, indeed. I had intended to bestow a 5th-tier Lingyun pill upon you today, but it seems you lack the affinity for such fortune. A 5th-tier Lingyun pill? Lin Huaiyuan curled his lip in contempt. Who would crave such garbage from you? Everyone knows that Yunfeng is so destitute it can barely scrape by. Do you actually expect us to believe you possess a 5th-tier elixir? That is likely nothing more than a ball of mud you picked up from the roadside, isn't it? The remaining peak lords burst into laughter as well. They assumed I had been driven mad by shame, and was fabricating the existence of a spirit pill. Peak Lord Zhong, if you are truly desperate to pass on a spirit pill, there is a girl with mediocre talent begging to enter the sect. She has been kneeling outside the mountain gates for 3 days, and none of us could be bothered to look at her. They had no idea that if they had inspected her, they would have discovered she was the daughter of the demon emperor, hiding a weakening 1,000-year-old demon soul within her body. Mu Bi had infiltrated the righteous path as a spy, possessing incredible aptitude and unparalleled talent. Could there really be such a stroke of good fortune? My eyes gleamed as I cast a meaningful glance toward the peak lords. Very well, if none of you desire her, then I shall take her in. There, at the mountain gate, a young girl in thin white robes knelt upon the earth, uncaring of the snowflakes settling upon her shoulders. Does this method truly work? The girl wondered inwardly, a hoarse voice echoing within her mind. Old servant, would I ever deceive you, little mistress? The righteous path obsesses over dignity and rules. As long as you kneel here, someone will naturally step forward to claim you. The girl felt a sense of troubled apprehension. Little mistress, do not let minor discomforts derail our grand design. As long as you carry the fragment of the old master's soul into the Taishang sect, he shall return in total triumph. This mission must not suffer a single mistake. He let out a helpless sigh. At that very moment, I approached the girl. Truly, she was a pitiful soul. Seeing your sincerity, I shall accept you as my disciple. The sudden change left the young girl momentarily stunned. The ancient spirit within her mind urged her urgently. His cultivation appears mediocre, perhaps even frivolous. Do not waste breath on him. We must seek a true powerhouse as a master. The young girl unleashed her divine sense to probe him, but she felt only a flicker of disappointment. Fellow Taoist, are you perhaps toying with me? I have come to join the Taisheng sect with genuine intent. If I cannot enter, I shall kneel here until my last breath. Seeing the tears welling in her eyes, I couldn't help but inwardly marvel at her performance. To think a spy could put on such a convincing act. What is your name? This disciple is called Situ Yingyu, from the 10,000 Great Mountains. Very well. I waved my hand, cutting her short. That origin story was clearly fabricated from the start. I am Zhang Xuanjiao, Peak Master of the Yun Peak of the Taisheng sect. From this day forth, you are my disciple. But can this predecessor truly be a Peak Master? Situ Yingyu looked up, filled with skepticism. I immediately retrieved the identity token from my waist. The ancient spirit within her gasped. It is genuine. What is happening here? The Taisheng sect was once the supreme hegemon of the ancient era, yet now it is led by a man with nothing more than the aura of the Foundation establishment realm. Leading as a Peak Master, Situ Yingyu was left completely dumbfounded. Is the Foundation establishment realm all there is? Is that not even inferior to her own hidden strength? She had in fact already reached the early stage of the nascent soul realm. Just as she was about to refuse, I raised my voice. Since you have accepted me as your master, the entrance gifts shall be most generous. An intoxicating medicinal fragrance suddenly erupted from my palm, rich, potent, and overflowing with spiritual energy, far eclipsing the grade 3 harmony pill that Xiao Xijiang had displayed earlier. A grade 5 Lingyan pill. The ancient spirit in her sea of consciousness gasped in terror. How can a lowly foundation establishment cultivator possess such heaven-defying pills? Could this man's strength be a facade? Has this old servant misjudged him? He must be a hidden expert who refuses to reveal his true power. I watched as Situ Yingyu stood there, utterly paralyzed by shock. This is your apprenticeship gift, but you must first address me as master and return to the sect for the disciples to witness your induction before I bestow it upon you. Looking at her naturally ethereal beauty, I could not resist reaching out to pat her head. Disciple pays respects to master. Urged by the ancient spirit, Situ Yingyu knelt without a moment's hesitation. System. Disciple recruitment successful. Unlocked the Void Archive, a cultivation system designed for the idle. Receive daily rewards for logging in, and complete grand objectives to claim mission bounties. I immediately brought her back to the peak. Yingyu followed me back to the Sword Peak, standing before the gathered crowd. Behold, these are the current peak masters of the Taishang sect. Today, before all witnesses, I, Zhang Xuanjiao, officially take Situ Yingyu as my disciple. Qiao Sijiang sneered, recruiting disciples? Are you planning to ruin another life? That Yun Peak of yours doesn't even have a decent soul cultivation chamber. Lin Huayan looked at Situ Yingyu and added with biting sarcasm. A trash with mediocre talent being taken in by a good-for-nothing like you. A match truly made in heaven. Su Yingyu listened to the cold mockery, her mind clouded with confusion. She felt this ceremony was growing increasingly bizarre. I ignored their disdain completely. I deliberately raised my voice. Disciple Situ Yingyu, step forward to receive your induction gift. Do not mind the theatrics of others. The surrounding peak masters turned away, not even bothering to look, finding the situation laughable. Lin Huayuan laughed until he trembled, refusing to believe I could produce anything of value, until a violent wave of medicinal fragrance slammed into his senses. The surging spiritual fluctuations were undeniably from a pill of grade 5 or higher. In my leisure years I accumulated quite a few treasures. I feigned a look of regret toward Lin Huayuan. I only rediscovered this recently, and I decided it should be my first gift to her. Forget it, all of this is simply destiny. I extended my palm, where a Lingdan pulsed with brilliance, radiating the absolute pinnacle of quality. Every gaze in the hall was locked onto that Tier 5 Ling Yun Dan, and even the arrogant smile of Ju Tuzhang vanished in an instant. How is this even possible? Lin Shaiyuan stared in utter disbelief. How could a mere mortal possess an artifact of such legendary caliber? Watching the colorful expressions of the crowd, I couldn't help but smirk inwardly. My disciple, come forward and receive your initiation. From this day forth, you are a disciple of my Yun Feng, and I have no shortage of treasures to bestow upon you. A Tier 5 superior internal cultivation technique. It is yours. I produced the Heavenly Phoenix blood condensation art, and handed it to Situ Yingyu, a Tier 5 superior manual. Before Situ Yingyu could process her shock, the surrounding crowd erupted into a new wave of bewilderment. Impossible. Ju Tuzhang was the first to darken his expression. The Taishang sect only possesses a Tier 5 inferior manual, and that is considered their sect-protecting treasure. Your lies must have a limit. How truly pathetic, fabricating such nonsense just to preserve a shred of dignity. I suspect that elixir is nothing but a cheap imitation. Does it really matter what you think? I had no intention of entertaining them further. The mockery had served its purpose, and it was time to depart. Very well, you have all witnessed this. I expect you to show her proper respect from this day forward. My disciple and I shall take our leave now. Stay right there. Ju Tujiang suddenly interjected. You speak endlessly of your vast treasury. If that is the case, dare you allow your disciple to face Lin Xiaoyan in a duel 5 months from now? If your Yunfeng loses, you shall dissolve your sect forever. And if I lose, the sword peak shall be razed to the ground. Just as the crowd anticipated my refusal, I nonchalantly agreed, though the fate of the sword peak has nothing to do with me. If you lose, you shall kneel before this assembly, kowtow 10 times until your forehead bleeds, and address me as honored uncle 10 times over. Ju Tujiang's complexion turned a sickly shade of green as he accepted the terms, and we returned to Yunfeng. Checking Situ Yingyu's status on the system board confirmed she was indeed a peerless genius. With such a disciple, my path to supremacy was assured, and in the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Holding the Heavenly Phoenix blood condensation art, the millennium-old demon was deeply shaken. It was truly a Tier 5 superior manual, equal in rank to the 9 transformations of the Demon Emperor, a mere cultivator who appeared utterly unremarkable, yet possessed a manual of this magnitude. This is terrifying. Who exactly is he? For the past month I had spent my days in indolent leisure, yet the system rewards poured in endlessly, even gifting me a Tier 4 Force God elixir. Situ Yingyu's cultivation had already surged to the Tier 5 nascent soul realm. My primary occupation each day remained finding ways to feed her the finest resources. Not far away, the millennium-old demon spoke again. A full month has passed. The world is vast and strange wonders truly abound. And this entire month, this master of yours hasn't practiced for a single moment, even sleeping away the nights. Yet his strength seems unfathomably deep. Has humanity reached such a terrifying peak? Should you find an opportunity? Perhaps you should just dispose of him now. Situ Yingyu made a throat-slashing gesture, nearly sending the old demon into a heart attack. Young mistress, this man is unequivocally a top-tier hidden expert, capable of manipulating his aura at will. He is not someone you can oppose, for even I, in my prime, could not guarantee such mastery. Is he truly that formidable? Situ Yingyu knitted her brows tightly. How has your progress been? My voice suddenly echoed through the hall. Situ Yingyu hurriedly bowed. Greetings, master. I have gained a preliminary grasp of the heavenly phoenix art, though it is far too profound and requires more time for contemplation. Do not rush, follow me. I have something to discuss with you. As I turned away, Situ Yingyu whispered anxiously. Old demon, did I reveal any flaws? If he is truly an expert of that level, then to him, we are nothing more than transparent ghosts, and even the demonic cultivation within you cannot be hidden from his senses. Then, what are we to do? Situ Yingyu felt a surge of panic. Do not fret. Since he has not exposed you, there must be a reason. Perhaps he has taken an interest in you, which might actually be a blessing. With such a man's support, your endeavors as young mistress will become infinitely easier. Situ Yingyu blushed. I am a demon, he is a human. We are natural-born enemies, and such a thing is absolutely impossible. In the young pavilion, I passed her the cage. Master, this is... Situ Yingyu stared at the 10,000-year snow rabbit, its aura overwhelming, and she was stunned. This is a 10,000-year snow rabbit, teeming with spiritual energy. I noticed your cultivation was stagnating at a bottleneck, so I hunted this specifically to help you break through. I let out a yawn. This creature is highly nourishing. Refine it, and your cultivation should ascend to the next level. My gratitude, master, but I shall commit your words to memory. I stretched lazily, cautioning her with an indifferent tone. The snow rabbit contains a trace of demonic essence. It must be refined at high noon, when the yang energy reaches its zenith. Nightfall brings a surge of yin energy. Under no circumstances should you touch it then, or you will succumb to a cultivation deviation. Very well, this master is deathly weary. I am retiring to sleep. Handle it as you see fit. With that, I walked away, paying no mind to her reaction. As I drifted upstairs, Situ Yingyu watched my lethargic departure and scoffed in indignation. Refining at high noon. Who was he trying to fool? Young miss, do not act rashly. He gave specific instructions. Perhaps there is wisdom in his words. Wisdom? What wisdom could a man who does nothing but sleep possess? I suspect he is merely feigning mystery to inflate his own prestige as a master. I choose to refine this snow rabbit in the dead of night. Consider it a preemptive strike, so he learns not to look down upon me. Young miss I. But her resolve was already absolute. As night fell and the moon hung high, Situ Yingyu erected a protective barrier and drew forth the snow rabbit. Come, let me see what tricks this 10,000-year-old beast truly has. Her fifth-stage nascent soul aura erupted, but the moment she began to absorb its spirit power, a terrifying anomaly unfolded. The demonic energy within the rabbit warped the heavens. The silver moonlight outside the window bled into a deep crimson. This is disastrous, a blood moon. The creature's demonic nature has triggered a celestial calamity. Young miss, stop at once. The ancient spirit cried out in terror, but it was already too late. A violent wave of heat swept through her veins. Situ Yingyu's eyes burned a feral red, and her consciousness began to fray. So hot, it burns. Instinctively, she began to claw at her own robes. With a sharp rip, her outer cloak was torn asunder. Miss, what has possessed you? The millennium-old spirit watched in horror, utterly unprepared for this spectacle. Under the influence of the blood moon, Situ Yingyu's skin turned scorching, her garments stripped away piece by piece until only her undergarments remained. Disciple, what is all this racket in the middle of the night? This master is dying of fatigue. I yawned and pushed open the attic door, my sleepy eyes struggling to focus, only to freeze in the next instant. It was dire. I no longer bothered to conceal my true cultivation. Unleashing my peak nascent soul speed to its limit, I arrived at her side in a blur, pinning her arms down as the demonic energy surged within her. She has suffered a cultivation deviation. Why must you be so headstrong, my stubborn disciple? I was incensed. It had been no small feat to secure such a talented apprentice. If anything were to happen to her, where would I find another? Without hesitation, I scooped her up and carried her into the second-floor loft. I laid Situ Yingyu upon the bed. Frantically, I rummaged under the bed frame, dragging out a small chest filled with 5th-grade elixirs. 5th-grade spirit elixirs, 6th-grade spirit herbs, tossed haphazardly inside a rotting wooden crate. The millennium-old spirit's eyes nearly bulged from their sockets. A true master is indeed a master of hidden depths. The spirit thought to itself in awe. I pulled out 2 vials of pills and a bundle of spirit herbs ready to act, but I suddenly halted in my tracks. To purge the demonic energy, her clothing would have to be removed entirely. But propriety dictates that a man and woman must not touch, and I am her master. Should I see her in such a state? I hesitated. After all, this world is not like the earth I once knew. If I saw everything, would I be expected to take responsibility for her? No, this will not do. This master must contemplate this. But if I did not save her, the demonic corruption would surely claim her life. I paced back and forth across the room, trapped in a desperate quandary. The ancient spirit dwelling within Situ Yingyu grew frantic. Would he prioritize her life or her purity? With no other choice, he was forced to seize control of her body. Master, do not hesitate any longer. Proceed, for I shall not hold you accountable. It had taken every ounce of her resolve to force those words past her lips. My spiritual power is exhausted. Are you still not unconscious yet? Since that is the case, I shall take your consent as granted. Consider this no breach of etiquette. Then your master shall begin, I whispered, gripping the final binding of her inner garment. No. Situ Yingyu's body trembled violently. She sought to resist, yet her voice remained trapped in her throat. In truth, her consciousness remained razor-sharp, and in that moment she hungered only for the ancient spirit's death. Snap! The fabric fell to the floor. Despite my intent, I could not help but linger for a heartbeat, while Situ Yingyu's face burned with humiliation, tears spilling from her eyes. However, your master saw absolutely nothing. I shall now begin your acupuncture. I offered a perfunctory explanation to mask the tension. With precision, I plunged the silver needles into her meridians, following the exact technique dictated by the system. After a dozen strikes, Situ Yingyu convulsed, spitting out a mouthful of stagnant dark blood. Good disciple, have you finally regained consciousness? I felt a wave of genuine relief. After a suffocating silence, Situ Yingyu suppressed the fury in her gaze and uttered only two words, "Get out." I stood, stunned for a moment before turning to leave. Rest assured, your master truly saw nothing. Dress yourself quickly. I shall return shortly to examine your condition once more. The moment I stepped out, Situ Yingyu's spiritual sense surged into her own sea of consciousness. The ancient spirit knelt prostrate, trembling. Young miss, please spare me. The situation was dire. Your servant had no other choice. No choice? I suspect you did this with malicious intent. Do not think me blind to your schemes. I warn you, there can never be anything between me and that man. If you dare to overstep your bounds and make decisions for me again, I will shatter your soul into nothingness. The ancient spirit cowered in abject terror. Great miss, my loyalty to you is absolute, and I harbor no ulterior motives. You were standing on the precipice of death. Your servant acted only to save your life. Situ Yingyu adjusted her robes, her rage simmering. The more she pondered, the more suspicious it became. The appearance of the snow rabbit was far too convenient. Zhang Xuanyao had surely orchestrated this drama to take advantage of her. This man is undoubtedly a fraud. How could there be so many coincidences in one day? First, that mysterious snow rabbit appeared, and immediately after, I suffered a cultivation backlash. He must have been plotting this for a long time. Gritting her teeth, she shoved the chamber door open. Deprived of the door's support, I lurched violently forward. Situ Yingyu let out a cry of alarm, pushing me away with force. Disciple, do not misunderstand. I was merely concerned for your well-being, lingering by the door to listen for any noise. I never expected it to swing open. Master, cease your lies, Situ Yingyu snapped, ignoring my words. Do not think I cannot see through this. This entire ordeal was a trap of your design. I sighed deeply. Yingyu, your master is being wrongfully accused. That snow rabbit was a prize I acquired by mere chance. I saw its immense spiritual energy, and intended for you to refine it to advance your cultivation. If I truly harbored ill intentions, why would I exhaust myself to save you from your cultivation deviation? Exhaust yourself? You only sought to take advantage of me. Those pills and spiritual artifacts of yours, who is to say they weren't prepared in advance just to stage this play for me? I smiled powerlessly. Disciple, you truly misunderstand me. Calm your heart and sense the state of your cultivation. Though skeptical, Situ Yingyu obeyed, turning her focus inward, only for her eyes to widen in shock. How can this be? I spoke softly, explaining that Snow Rabbit was no ordinary beast, but a 100,000-year-old spirit creature containing vast reserves of energy. I intended for you to refine it, to break through your bottleneck, but its energy was too volatile, tainted by a lingering trace of demonic essence. Had I not prepared the foundations for you, your body would have been utterly shattered by the strain. I refuse to believe that. Perhaps my cultivation base has simply reached its threshold, and this breakthrough has nothing to do with that rabbit. You must be using this as a pretense to get close to me and take advantage of the situation. The ancient spirit of the sea could not help but interject. Young mistress, his strength is unfathomable. Why would he resort to such base and petty schemes? Every action he takes is to accelerate your advancement, and he explicitly warned you to refine it at midday and leave it untouched once night falls. Shot the old spirit, a withering glare. Silence! Whose side are you truly on? Seeing that any further explanation would be futile, I chose to remain silent. The objective had been achieved, and that was enough. Disciple, focus on your recovery. Your master has pressing matters to attend to. With those words, I beat a hasty retreat. Situ Yingyu watched my retreating back, a firm resolve hardening in her eyes. I will not be deceived. I must probe him and uncover his true intentions for taking me into this sect. She donned a diaphanous, provocative garment, leaving her exquisite curves barely concealed. Simultaneously, I stared at the crimson cord the system had just bestowed upon me, my expression one of profound disdain. You have to be joking, right? Even if this item is effective for body tempering, the design is beyond humiliating. It winds around the body, utilizing the surge of spiritual energy to thoroughly temper the sinews, bones, and skin. The description sounds professional enough, but this erotic shade of red and the lingering fragrance make it impossible not to associate it with questionable artifacts. It seems this tempering cord is indeed a potent treasure. Just as Yingyu was lost in deep thought, a rhythmic knocking echoed at the door. Knock, knock, knock. I opened the door, clutching the tempering cord in my hand. I couldn't help but freeze upon seeing Situ Yingyu's seductive attire. Disciple, it is late. What brings you here at this hour? Situ Yingyu caught sight of the red cord in my hand, her brow furrowing as she silently cursed me as a pervert, before quickly plastering on a faux seductive smile. Master, my cultivation has achieved a breakthrough, and I felt such joy that I simply had to come and speak with you more about that snow rabbit. I shifted aside to let her in, and she deliberately glided past me, moving with calculated grace. A wave of intoxicating fragrance filled the room. Master, do you truly believe that snow rabbit possesses such immense efficacy? 100,000-year snow rabbit is a creature that only a cultivator at the nascent soul stage could hope to contend with. She scoffed inwardly, though she maintained a facade of earnest curiosity. Master, since you have saved me, should I not show my gratitude? She pressed her body against my back, her jade-like hands gently massaging my shoulders, her breath fluttering against my neck like a soft breeze. I frowned, gently pushing her hands away. Disciple, your gratitude is noted. I only wish for you to focus on your training and cast aside such distracting thoughts. Situ Yingyu was visibly taken aback. Could he truly be a man of such unimpeachable virtue? She refused to believe it. Master, are you truly suggesting you do not desire your disciple's gratitude? Her eyes shimmered with a mist of feigned vulnerability as she looked up at me. Watching this performance, my heart remained ice-cold and composed. I nearly laughed out loud. Back on Earth, I was no stranger to the high-stakes world of nightlife and indulgence, and this level of acting was amateurish at best. Yingyu, I spoke with a grave tone, I view you only as my disciple, and if such behavior were to be rumored, it would only tarnish your reputation. Situ Yingyu froze, likely concluding that I was far more cunning than she had anticipated. She prepared to probe further, but her gaze fell once again upon the tempering cord in my hand. I felt a flush creep up my neck and coughed softly to mask my embarrassment. Master, this tempering cord is a treasure I specifically sought out for you. Now that your cultivation has broken through, your foundation must be reinforced. This cord will refine your physical form and strengthen your body from the inside out. Situ Yingyu watched with skepticism. Master, why don't you demonstrate how to use this for me? I have only just acquired this myself and have yet to master its application. I fear a demonstration might result in errors. Let me study it for the night and I shall demonstrate it for you tomorrow. Having a grown man like me demonstrate this thing? I would rather die. Situ Yingyu's lips curled into a faint mocking arc, her eyes gleaming with unconcealed disdain. Since Master has spoken, then Yingyu shall await tomorrow's instruction with bated breath. However, I suggest Master does not disappoint me. Early the following morning, I brought the body refinement bindings out to the courtyard. Situ Yingyu stood waiting, her gaze fixed upon me with blatant provocation. Then let us begin, Master. She dropped her arms, yielding to the binding, clearly unconvinced that a simple cord could truly refine the body. With a subtle flick of my right hand, a crimson light ignited, and the cord coiled around her like a living streak of lightning. Situ Yingyu bristled in anger, but the 1,000-year-old demon soul within her suddenly gasped in shock. It was actually working. A gentle, steady flow of spirit energy began to unfurl and widen her dormant meridians. I am refining your very marrow, my disciple. How could your master ever deceive you? This binding is in truth a legendary treasure. I pulsed a surge of spiritual essence into the rope, causing it to glow brilliantly as it tightened with sudden, crushing intensity. Master, release this disciple at once. Yingyu can no longer endure this. The moment that cry echoed beyond the courtyard, Xiao Di, the senior disciple of Sword Peak, sneaked in, flanked by several sycophants. Hearing the commotion inside, Xiao Di grinned with malicious delight and charged into the courtyard. Zhang Xuanyao, how dare you? Do you truly believe you can abuse your own disciple with such impunity? I narrowed my eyes, retracted the binding spell, and casually flicked a palm of spirit energy into Xiao Di's chest. With a dull, heavy thud, he staggered back, only saved from collapsing by his lackeys. As a disciple under Qiao Sijiang, you are strictly obliged to address me as Grand Marshal Uncle upon sight. Does your stature even permit you to utter the name Zhang Xuanyao so recklessly? My voice was icy. My disciple and I are in the midst of cultivation. What is the meaning of this uninvited intrusion? Xiao Di clutched his chest, sneering. Is this what you call cultivation? Situ Yingyu is already begging for mercy. We are taking this straight to the enforcement elder to see how you justify these atrocities. Moments later, the enforcement elder arrived with a retinue of disciples, but finding Qiao Di's insolence so egregious that he forgot all order and protocol, the elder struck him across the head with his staff on the spot. Situ Yingyu frowned at the intruder. Qiao Di, what nonsense are you spewing? Master is helping me refine my cultivation. Which of your eyes saw him acting with malice? Qiao Di stood frozen in utter bewilderment. But, Lady Yingyu, we all clearly heard you begging for mercy. How is that anything but abuse? Situ Yingyu blushed slightly. What could you possibly understand? The sensations caused by these refinements are naturally intense, but what you heard was merely a standard reaction, not a plea for release. The enforcement elder's face darkened as he reprimanded Qiao Di with a thunderous voice. Qiao Di, is this the atrocity you spoke of? You acted with such reckless abandon, daring to disturb another's cultivation. Do you have any idea the severity of your crime? Elder, we only heard the sounds and feared Lady Yingyu was in grave danger, so we rushed here. It was all just a misunderstanding, sir. A misunderstanding? Your blind arrogance has wasted everyone's time and nearly resulted in the slander of an innocent man. Qiao Di slunk away in disgrace. The enforcement elder offered a few final words of caution before dispersing the crowd. Peace finally returned to Yun Peak. Tu Yingyu felt the profound changes within her body, and her respect for me grew with every passing moment. Master, this body refinement technique is truly miraculous. Although it was agonizing, my physique has never felt this powerful. With the guests gone, I began to worry about the security of Yun Peak. Leaving it so vulnerable to intruders was no longer an option. Just then the system notification echoed. Ding! Today's salted fish mission complete. Reward, 110,000-year hellhound. I stared at the tiny fluffy creature wagging its tail before me, and my mind went blank. System, you had better explain yourself. You dare label this tiny milk dog a 10,000-year hellhound? As if sensing my skepticism, the creature began to shift. With every step the puppy took, its aura expanded exponentially. Within seconds, it swelled into a massive, terrifying beast, wreathed in the fires of the underworld. It let out a low, growling rumble in my direction, but I didn't hesitate to swat it firmly on the head. The beast instantly adopted a pitiful, aggrieved expression, shrinking back into a tiny puppy to nuzzle affectionately against my feet. Just as I reached down to scoop it up, it suddenly reverted to a combat stance, sensing an intruder, and bolted like a shadow toward the back mountain. I pursued them to the valley entrance, only to discover Qiao Di leading his subordinates, slinking back in the shadows, keeping the hellhound on high alert. Trailing closely behind him, Situ Yingyu hurried toward the scene. Master, what is going on here? In the blink of an eye, the vicious hellhound reverted into a harmless, adorable puppy. It is nothing of consequence. I was merely taking a stroll. Oh, where did this little puppy come from? It is absolutely precious. Mesmerized, Situ Yingyu sat down to gently stroke its fur. This creature is a master of hypocrisy. It behaved impeccably for her, having only followed me earlier because it had sensed her presence. I spoke with indifference. Since you are so fond of it, you may keep it. I glanced toward the valley. Qiao Di's men had already fled in a panic, vanishing into the darkness. Are you certain, master? That is wonderful. I shall take the best care of it. Situ Yingyu cradled the puppy, her face radiant with a sweet, youthful smile. With this hellhound to guard her, I can finally return to my quiet, carefree life. Upon retreating from the rear of Yunfeng, a furious Qiao Di demanded an explanation from his disciple. Did you not swear that they would never set foot in the rear of Yunfeng? What is the meaning of this? Eldest senior brother, I never imagined such an outcome. I truly believe they would avoid this place. Feng Wo lowered his head, his posture radiating deep insecurity. You never imagined? What exactly did you fail to imagine? Qiao Di let out a cold, biting laugh mocking him. Your assessment failed, and it was a critical, catastrophic error. Beads of cold sweat drenched Feng Huo as he desperately scrambled for a way to salvage the situation. Senior brother, I have one more scheme that will surely condemn Zhang Xuanjiao to eternal ruin. Qiao Di's eyes sharpened with interest. Speak then, let me hear it. While descending the mountain days ago, I uncovered a source of demonic energy. We can retrieve it and infiltrate the Yun Pavilion with it. Once that is done, a sinister chilling smirk pulled at the corners of Qiao Di's mouth. Indeed, that is a marvelous plan. If we plant the demonic energy within the Yun Pavilion, even if Zhang Xuanjiao remains unaffected, he loses nothing. But if he falls into demonic corruption, he will have no one to blame but himself. Precisely, eldest senior brother. This time we shall surely drive Zhang Xuanjiao to his grave. Qiao Di nodded, a ruthless, resolute glint flashing in his eyes. Very well, let it be done. Act now, how can we ensure his demise by tonight? Deep into the night, Yunfeng fell into a deathly silence. I had long since drifted into a deep sleep, while Situ Yingyu secretly trained within the Beast Sea. Qiao Di kept watch at the mountain's base, waiting until he finally saw Feng Huo sneaking back. Feng Huo returned battered and bloodied, entirely alone. What is the situation? Why are you in such a state? Where are the other disciples? With a pale ashen face, Feng produced a small transparent vial from his robes. inside which a strand of black mist thrashed violently. Eldest senior brother. That demonic entity was formidable. It took all of our combined strength to repel it, and all the junior brothers were sacrificed. But I risked my life to secure this. This sliver of demonic energy should be more than enough to send Zhang Xuanjiao to the underworld. Snatched the vial, his eyes burning with malice. Well done, Feng Huo. Take the secret of today's events to your grave. Remember, the death of your junior brothers was caused by none other than Zhang Xuanjiao. Do you understand? Feng Huo nodded frantically. Good. Now head to the law enforcement hall immediately. Once the demonic aura is detected on Yunfeng, charge in, drag the enforcement elder here, and what must you say? Surely I do not need to coach you on that? Feng Huo bolted away like a blur. Chao Di stared at the vial in his hand, his expression twisted with hatred and triumph. Zhangjiao, your final hour has arrived. He crept stealthily toward the Yun pavilion. At that very moment, the puppy resting at Situ Yingyu's feet suddenly snapped its head up, its eyes gleaming with predatory hunger. He silently departed from his quarters, sprinting like a gale toward the rear mountain. Even in the depths of slumber, my spiritual senses detected an anomaly lurking in the darkness. Snapping my eyes open, I caught sight of Chao Di. Feeling the aura of the hellhound rising to meet him, the corners of my mouth curled into a chilling smile. On the mountain path, Chao Di crossed paths with the small pup, his expression twisting into one of utter disdain. A mere beast dares to obstruct my path. He lashed out with a kick, snarling scram, get out of my way. Yet the pup did not retreat. Instead, it instantly reverted to its true hellhound form, jaw widening like a cavernous pit of blood. Terror seized Chao Di's soul, his blood running cold as he instinctively recoiled. In his panicked struggle, the vial containing the demonic essence slipped, the seal shattered, and black bones, reeking of malice, erupted and swirled into the air. You wretched animal, Chao Di roared in fury, only to realize the demonic energy had spiraled completely out of his control. From within Yun Pavilion, I felt the violent tremor and stood up instantly. Something was terribly wrong. I bolted from my quarters. By now the swirling miasma had coiled around Chao Di like a living shroud. Instinct screamed at him to flee, but the demonic energy surged forward, hungrily devouring his senses. In a heartbeat, his eyes turned bloodshot, his body consumed by shadows as he descended into total demonic madness. Having succumbed, Chao Di charged at the hellhound with a feral roar, his hands morphing into obsidian claws. The hellhound unleashed a torrent of scorching flames, the collision of man and beast shattering the very air around them. By the time I reached the rear mountain, Chao Di was a complete lunatic lunging at me, only to be met by the hellhound, which circled and savaged him with relentless fury. Seeing the gravity of the situation, I narrowed my eyes, fingers dancing to weave a seal. I unsheathed a jade talisman etched with ancient runes and struck it squarely into Chao Di's chest. Bam! Chao Di was sent hurtling backward. The hellhound seized the opening, pouncing like a living cannon to pin him to the earth, its claws sinking deep into his shoulders. You beast, let me go. The demonized Chao Di shrieked, but he was pinned, utterly unable to break free. The hellhound opened its maw, emitting a blinding emerald light. The chaotic demonic energy in the air was forcibly dragged back into its throat, and as the corruption was siphoned away, Chao Di's aura withered and the madness in his eyes began to fade. At that exact moment, the air was torn asunder by a sudden gust. A group descended before me, led by an elderly man with a gaunt face and an aura as vast as the heavens. Clad in ink-colored robes with eyes deep as the abyss, he exuded a steady, imposing presence that commanded absolute deference. This was none other than the enforcer elder of the Taishang sect. Mo Yuan cast a chilling, scrutinizing gaze upon the weakened Chao Di and then upon me as I stood there in calm indifference. What exactly has happened here? Before I could speak, Chao Di recovered a sliver of his wits and dared to twist the truth. Prompted by Fang Wo, he cried out, Elder, he is a secret practitioner of the demonic arts. If you had arrived a moment later, I would have perished by his hand. Feng Ho bowed his head, a glimmer of hidden malice flickering in his eyes. The enforcer disciples drew their weapons, but I remained composed, offering a slight bow. Elder, my Yun Peak is open for your inspection. This demonic energy was brought here by Chao Di, who snuck into the peak under the cover of darkness. This has nothing to do with me. I recounted the entire sequence of events with icy precision, carefully concealing the existence of the hellhound. Elder Mo Yan's expression darkened, and he immediately commanded Li Qiang to lead a detachment to ransack the entirety of Yun Peak. Li Qiang, take your men and conduct a thorough investigation into Chao Di, and this Feng Huo as well. Upon hearing those commands, Chao Di's aura faltered, his features betraying a sudden, desperate panic. An hour having synthesized the evidence, Mo Yan turned his blade-like gaze upon Chao Di. Chao Di, your crimes are mountainous. You dared to conspire to use demonic energy to harm your fellow disciples. A sin that could have invited catastrophe. Drag him to the enforcement hall, seal his cultivation and keep him under heavy guard until he is fit for interrogation. As for Feng Wo, he collapsed to his knees, weeping uncontrollably. Elder, I was forced. It was all Chao Di's coercion. He threatened to end my life if I didn't comply. I had no other choice. The enforcer elder sneered. Do you truly believe such a pathetic excuse will absolve you of your sins? Once the investigation concludes, your fate shall be decided. You will accompany me to the enforcement hall as well. Silence finally returned to Yun Peak. I retrieved the Hellhound, which seemed to vanish into the shadows, and retreated toward the Yun Pavilion. The news spread like wildfire. Qiao Xizhang, master of Sword Peak, rushed to the enforcement hall to find his disciple, Qiao Di, in a miserable state. You unfilial wretch. What kind of utter idiocy have you committed? Qiao Di dared not hide the truth and confessed everything. Knowing the gravity of the transgression, Qiao Xizhang could only plead with Elder Mo Yuan. This fool lacks the wisdom to see the consequences of his actions. He was led astray by Fang Huo. I am willing to bear the burden of his punishment. I only ask that you grant this misguided boy a chance to repent. The gravity of these crimes is immense. I alone cannot make a unilateral decision. However, should he show true remorse after facing his punishment, the sect will not drive him into a corner. Qiu Di collapsed, weeping. Master, I have erred. It was the shadows of jealousy and hatred that blinded me, driving me to commit such treachery. As I sat in the meditation hall reflecting on the incident, I wondered how demonic energy could so easily infiltrate our gates through Qiao Di. Perhaps he is merely a pawn, manipulated by a far more sinister force lurking in the darkness. Lost in thought, drifting deeper into contemplation, I eventually succumbed to an exhausted slumber. The following dawn, I was roused by a disciple sent by the Peak Master. Grand Marshal Uncle, the sect master requests your presence at the secret council chamber immediately. Within the hall, the sect master sat at the head of the table, his expression grave and imposing. Zhang Xuanzhao, you have arrived. I have summoned you all, because the crisis regarding the infiltration of demonic energy grows increasingly dire. Our investigation has revealed that Fang Huo had secretly rendezvoused with a mysterious figure in black outside our mountain gates. Fang Huo was merely a puppet, manipulated by this shadow to introduce demonic filth into our sect, intending to plunge us into chaos. A shiver ran down my spine. What manner of terrifying entity is this mysterious figure in black? To possess such audacity and cunning, weaving a plot under our noses. What is their ultimate objective? According to Fang Huo's testimony, this shadow possesses intimate knowledge of our sect's internal defenses, identifying our weakest points to facilitate Qiao Di and Fang Huo's intrusion. As the elders erupted into a clamor of suspicion, fearing a traitor in our midst, the sect master decreed a full investigation, ordering all disciples of nascent soul perfection or higher to purge all demonic traces within a 100-mile radius. I felt a surge of awkwardness. Sect master, I must speak. My Yun Peak possesses only one disciple, Yingyu. She has only just reached the 6th stage of the nascent soul realm. Xiao Sijiang let out a scoffing sneer. The wastebin of Yun Peak, a pit for squandered resources. The sect master waved a hand. Zhang Xuanzhao, you need not worry for Yun Peak. We have already considered this. Yun Peak is excused from this cleansing operation. However, you and your student must remain vigilant. Should any other peaks require support, you are to assist. Your decree is accepted, sect master. Yingyu and I shall remain in the sect, standing ready to provide full support to our brothers and sisters. Beyond defense and cleansing, the elders must reinforce the grand defensive formation. I shall consult with the masters of formation arts to reorganize and fortify our primary defense, ensuring no further breaches occur. Upon returning to Yun Peak, I had just finished calming a worried Yingyu when a spirit crane descended from the clouds. Greetings, Grand Marshal Uncle. By command of our Peak Master, we invite you and your disciple to the beast-taming peak for urgent assistance. I sighed in resignation. Yingyu, follow your master. At the beast-taming peak, the sight was ghastly. Beasts were rampaging wildly. I unleashed my spiritual power, catching a faint putrid scent of demonic energy, which Yingyu also sensed. Master, there is a strange crimson glint in these beasts' eyes. They seem tainted by demonic influence, though not in the traditional sense. The guiding disciple looked on in bewilderment. Grand Marshal Uncle, we are as confused as you are. These beasts were inherently docile, but the moment our Peak Master returned from the council, they descended into madness simultaneously. As we approached the main hall, a frenzied black bear charged at us with feral intensity. Peak Master Sun Hao was drenched in sweat, desperately holding his ground. Marshal Uncle, stop staring. Lend a hand. I instantly flicked a talisman into the fray. This is a sealing charm. It will bind the beast temporarily, but it cannot hold for long. A flicker of confusion crossed Sun Hao's eyes. Yesterday he had conspired with Qiao Xizhang to test my capabilities, yet I had emerged unscathed. Now his own spirit beasts were falling to ruin. He lunged forward, channeling his cultivation to dispel the demonic corruption. Just as the darkness began to fade, the bear shattered the light mesh with brutal force, its blood-red eyes locking onto me before it lunged with lethal speed. My gaze turned icy. I had underestimated the depth of the bear's demonic corruption. I could not afford the slightest negligence. My figure vanished in a blink, evading the bear's claws as I unleashed a surge of cultivation. A piercing beam of azure light slammed into the beast, shackling its movements once more. Yet, the bear barely staggered before lunging again, moving with a velocity that carried a vile, stench-filled gale. Sun Hao's eyes widened in horror. He had never imagined the situation would spiral so violently, leaving him momentarily paralyzed. Witnessing the carnage, a storm of concern welled within Situ Yingyu, and she let out a sharp cry. "Master, I am here to assist." The spirit-refining whip flicked from her hand like a living serpent, coiling tightly around the bear's rear legs. The weapon cinched tight as she hauled back with all her might, yet it only caused the bear to stumble slightly in its blind rage. Within the black bear's frenzied vision, only I stood resolute and unflinching. It threw its head back and let out a deafening roar, the demonic miasma swirling around its massive frame thickening with every passing second. In that very moment, the small hound that always trailed Situ Yingyu emerged from behind us, silently parting its jaws. A torrential suction force erupted, dragging the chaotic demonic energy from the bear directly into the hound's throat. As the hellhound devoured the corruption, the beast's movements grew sluggish, and the bloodlust in its eyes began to wane. Seizing the opening, I wove a complex seal with both hands and began a silent incantation. A soft prismatic radiance flared from my palms, enveloping the bear. Under the weight of the purification seal, the lingering demonic essence was torn from the beast's soul, and its gaze slowly regained a flicker of clarity. A moment later, the mountain-like titan collapsed to the earth, heaving with shallow, exhausted breaths. Amidst the suffocating tension of the aftermath, no one spared a glance for the small hound. Yet Sun Hao stood frozen in his tracks, witnessing everything, his eyes glinting with a strange calculating greed as they locked onto the dog. I stepped forward, gently stroking the bear's forehead, while channeling a steady, calming stream of spiritual energy. "Rest easy, little one, you are safe now." The surrounding disciples collectively exhaled, their bodies finally losing the rigid tension of fear. Sun Hao approached as well, his expression a complex tapestry of gratitude, lingering shame for his previous arrogance, and an undeniable covetous hunger for the hellhound. "Martial uncle, my deepest thanks for your intervention. Had you not acted, the beast-taming peak would have suffered catastrophic losses." I shook my head dismissively. "Junior, stand on ceremony another time. Though this bear is subdued, we must uncover the source of this corruption immediately." Sun Hao nodded in agreement, yet his eyes betrayed him, constantly drifting back toward the small hound. "Martial uncle, this dog of yours." Sensing his dangerous intent, I promptly cut him off and shifted the focus. "Junior, the beasts on your peak are still in a state of violent unrest. Tend to them at once, lest a greater calamity befalls your sect." Having spoken, I denied Sun Hao any further opportunity to press the subject. I surged forward, diving into the heart of the rampaging beast tide. Situ Yingyu and the hound hurried to keep pace with my stride. Although the number of frenzied beasts on the peak was significant, they were concentrated solely along the narrow path leading to the main hall. The more beasts I suppressed, the more a gnawing sense of unease settled into my gut. Demonic energy, once leaked, usually dissipates into the environment, yet we had faced no such incidents until this morning. That such a massive synchronized outbreak occurred so suddenly was highly unnatural. My brows furrowed tightly as a storm of questions brewed within my mind. I knew with absolute certainty that the manifestation of this miasma was no mere accident. Deep in the shadows, a far more sinister conspiracy was being woven. And the hellhound did not draw undue attentions. I silently signaled for it to cease its consumption of the miasma. 3 hours passed until every last soul beast on the peak had been pacified. The disciples of the beast-taming peak were utterly spent, and even Sun Hao struggled to mask his depleted spiritual reserves. I, however, remained as composed as a mountain, neither my breathing nor my spirit showing the slightest trace of strain. "Junior, the danger here has passed. Situ Yingyu and I shall take our leave." After a few formalities, I led Situ Yingyu back toward Yun Peak. She too had sensed the predatory glint in Sun Hao's eyes regarding the dog, so she clutched the beast to her chest. However, the moment I stepped into Yun Pavilion and attempted to settle, a knock echoed at the door. "Grand Marshal Uncle, the sect master requests your presence at the deliberation hall." As the door swung open, the sect master's disciple stood with hands clasped, bowing toward me in solemn reverence. Sharp ache throbbed in my temples, and I couldn't help but groan internally. Must this happen again? I have only just returned. Is it too much to ask for a moment of peace? But if the sect master summons me to the deliberation hall, it could only mean a matter of grave consequence. I dared not waste a single second of their time. Heavy with reluctant resignation, I followed the disciple toward the heart of the sect. Along the path, a chilling premonition began to gnaw at my intuition. Entering the hall, the atmosphere was suffocating. Every peak master sat in their place, faces etched with grave, grim expressions. As I took my seat, the sect master spoke. "The young river is being ravaged by a demonic serpent, leaving the populace in ruins. They have come to our sect specifically to beg for salvation. As the premier sect of Haizhou, it was our duty to respond, yet my heart sank. The dark premonition had become a grim reality. At this very moment, Xiao Xijiang could no longer contain his impatience and surged to his feet. "Sect master, I believe that when it comes to the vile dragon terrorizing the kingdom of Ung, Uncle Master Zhang is the only suitable candidate for the task. With every peak currently occupied with rooting out spies and bolstering our defenses, no other peak masters can afford to leave their posts. It is only logical that Uncle Master Zhang should be the one to go." And Chao Xizhang spoke with honeyed words, yet his eyes flickered toward me repeatedly, gleaming with smug calculation. The sect master frowned at his words. Xuanyao was only in the nascent soul stage, and confronting a dragon of that caliber was perilously dangerous. Refusing to yield, Chao Xizhang pressed his case once more, determined to force my departure by any means necessary. Sect Master, there is something you do not yet know. Uncle Master Zhang's strength is far from ordinary. Earlier today, while quelling the beast tide at the beast-taming peak, even Sun Hao could not compare to his prowess. Is that not right, Uncle Master Zhang? With that, Chao Xizhang turned his gaze back to me. For the sake of our sect and the salvation of the people of Ung, surely you would not refuse this mission? The sect master furrowed his brows, his tone growing sharp and severe. Chao Xizhang, enough. This matter requires careful deliberation. We cannot make such rash decisions. Xuanyao, what is your stance on this? I cupped my hands in salute and replied, Sect Master, to serve the sect and save the suffering people of Ung is a duty I cannot shirk. I then cast a glance at Chao Xizhang's smug expression, and added, however, if I am to go, I must bring my disciple, Situ Yingyu. This will be an invaluable opportunity for her to gain real-world combat experience. Upon hearing this, Chao Xizhang felt a sudden chill of apprehension. He had intended to banish me, so he could seize the chance to lure Situ Yingyu into his own faction. Impossible. Situ Yingyu possesses peerless natural talent. Remaining in the sect to cultivate is the only correct path. How can you allow her to walk into such danger? I fixed a cold, piercing gaze upon Chao Xizhang. Chao Xizhang, Yingyu is my disciple. I am more than capable of protecting her myself. This is not a matter for you to dictate. The other peak masters began to chime in, some arguing that I possessed the strength for the mission, while others fretted over the thinning of our internal defenses. The assembly hall erupted into a chaotic, murmuring debate. The sect master pondered for a moment before speaking. Xuanyao, you are well aware of the current state of our sect. The support we can provide you will be strictly limited. As for Situ Yingyu, if you are adamant about taking her, then so be it. But you must exercise extreme caution. The sect will keep a watchful eye on any news regarding your mission, and we shall dispatch reinforcements the moment it becomes necessary. I understood well that the sect was caught in a dilemma, so I made no further protests, bowing deeply. I obey the sect master's command. I will spare no effort in this task. Once the meeting concluded, I returned to Yun Peak to inform Situ Yingyu of the decision. With unwavering resolve in her eyes, Situ Yingyu declared, Master, no matter the danger that awaits, I shall stand by your side and fight. Looking at her, a wave of profound comfort washed over me. I handed her the Spirit Void Pill and the Heaven-Earth Spirit Control Technique, both rewards granted by the system. Yingyu, these are rewards I have secured for you. Use every second to cultivate and strengthen your foundations. This journey to the Kingdom of Ung will be fraught with peril. Situ Yingyu accepted the elixir and the manual, bowing firmly. Master, rest assured, I will not fail your expectations. After finalizing our preparations, the master and disciple departed for the Kingdom of Ung. Along the way, I relayed every detail regarding the vile dragon and our tactical countermeasures to Situ Yingyu. She listened with intense focus, occasionally offering her own sharp insights and questions. Together we refined our battle plan until it was seamless. We arrived in the Kingdom of Ung in short order, immediately sensing an atmosphere thick with fear and stifling tension. Despite it being broad daylight, not a single soul could be seen on the streets. Soon someone noticed our group. Myself, Situ Yingyu, and the small dog, and hurried toward us, trembling. Are you the immortal masters from the Supreme Sect sent to save our kingdom? I gave a slaster of unique peak. Zhang Xuanyao. This is my disciple. Situ Yingyu stood beside me as the man's face broke into a look of desperate relief. I am Li Ji, Imperial Tutor of Ung. That vile dragon has grown increasingly unhinged. Every day it ravages our city, and the people dare not step outside, cowering in their homes in terror. I beg you, Immortal Master, strike quickly and save the people of our kingdom. With that, Li Ji clasped his hands and bowed low to the ground in a desperate show of reverence. I gently raised my right hand and a swept through, steadying Li Ji as he stood. Do not rush. We must first assess the full scope of the evil flood dragon's devastation. Under Li Ji's guidance, they reached the most ravaged sector of the city, where ruined homes stood amidst debris that still reeked of acrid smoke, marked by colossal footprints and scattered obsidian scales. Situ Yingyu knelt down, observing the scales with meticulous focus. Master, these scales are incredibly durable. Judging by the lingering spiritual pressure, the strength of this evil flood dragon is not to be underestimated. I knelt down beside her to conduct my own inspection. A moment later, I rose to my feet, my brows furrowed deeply. This beast is not only powerful, but it also carries a lingering trace of demonic essence. This aura bears a striking resemblance to the demonic Kia I sensed at the beast-taming peak. I fear this matter is far more complex than we imagined. At that very moment, a low, guttural roar echoed from the distance, causing the earth to tremble beneath our feet. Immortal Master, it has returned. Li Ji, gripped by terror, dared not take another step, trembling violently as he hid behind me. I immediately projected my spiritual sense, gazing toward the source of the roar to see a dark, roiling mass of clouds sweeping rapidly toward us. Within the gloom, the faint outline of a gargantuan shadow thrashed with violent intent. "Watch out," I shouted, instantly manifesting a defensive formation to envelop Li Ji within a protective barrier. In a flash, the evil flood dragon surged before us. Its massive frame was encased in black scales that shimmered coldly under the sun, while its blood-red eyes glowed like twin infernos, radiating a savage, predatory malice. Sensing our presence, the creature opened its crimson maw, unleashing a torrential wave of black flame that swept directly toward us. Wherever the fire touched, the air warped and withered, while the stone beneath instantly disintegrated into fine ash. I pulled Situ Yingyu aside, my hands weaving through incantations to conjure an ice-blue spiritual shield that blunted the remnants of the flame. "Yingyu, find an opening to strike its eyes and unbelly. Those are its weaknesses." Situ Yingyu nodded, clutching her weapon and lunging toward the beast's eyes. The evil flood dragon sensed the incoming strike and jerked its head, narrowly evading the blow. Immediately, its colossal tail whipped horizontally towards Situ Yingyu with crushing force. Situ Yingyu tilted her body to dodge, yet the sheer pressure of the wind generated by the tail sent her spiraling backward. "Yingyu," I cried out in alarm, instantly flashing to her side to catch her. "Are you unharmed?" Situ Yingyu wiped the trace of blood from the corner of her mouth. "Master, I am unhurt. This beast's speed is far too great." I set Situ Yingyu down, fixing my gaze upon the dragon, my eyes igniting with a frigid, murderous light. Originally, I had intended to let Situ Yingyu temper herself, which is why I held back. But now that she has been injured, my fury is absolute. This is the only disciple I have. If she is broken, who is to carry on my legacy? My figure blurred like a phantom as I closed the distance, my hands weaving a lethal sequence to unleash a volley of razor-sharp spiritual arrows. The evil flood dragon showed no fear, its massive body coiling as its scales bristled, batting away the spiritual projectiles with the sound of clashing metal. Seeing this, I tapped my foot lightly, leaving a trail of afterimages in the air. I flanked the beast, unleashing a dual palm strike saturated with potent spiritual energy, slamming into its ribs like a tidal wave of destruction. Sensing the threat, the evil flood dragon lashed out with a massive claw, the black gales surrounding its limb colliding head-on with my palms. In an instant, a shock wave of energy erupted in all directions. The very space around us rippled and distorted under the impact. Having traded a direct blow with the monster, I utilized the recoil to slide backward. My blood boiled with rage, my eyes wide and fixed upon the beast, as a furnace of anger ignited within me, threatening to incinerate everything in existence. "Today, you wretched creature, you shall pay for your transgressions," I bellowed, my roar thundering like the wrath of heaven itself. My hands danced with blinding speed, weaving complex seals in a blur of motion. Spiritual energy surged around me in a torrential tempest. The once still air was violently shattered and displaced. It coalesced into a spinning vortex of pure concentrated power. The air shrieked under the manifestation of the heavenly mirage techniques. Following my shout, the heavenly phoenix frost clarity technique erupted, and my form split into countless illusions that blanketed the horizon. Moving in perfect synchronization, every copy unleashed a barrage of weapons, lightning orbs, and wind blades, covering the sky as they descended upon the beast. Facing such an overwhelming assault, the evil flood dragon finally abandoned its arrogance, twisting its massive frame as it spewed torrents of black flame in a desperate bid to hold back the onslaught. Flame and spiritual energy collided with a deafening roar, unleashing a blinding brilliance and devastating shockwaves that rippled through the surroundings. Everywhere the shockwave traveled, buildings were pulverized into ruin, and the earth itself was cratered into massive yawning pits. Yet my onslaught did not cease, for my true form remained hidden amidst a myriad of illusions. Seizing the moment while the evil flood dragon struggled to defend, I suddenly manifested directly above its crown. I drove both palms downward, aglow with a resplendent golden radiance, channeling a force capable of overturning mountains and draining seas, a strike fueled by my absolute fury and peak strength. The gale from my palms shrieked, as if tearing the very fabric of space. The evil flood dragon sensed the lethal threat from above, but it was far too late to evade. My palms connected heavily with its spine, producing a thunderous, muffled impact that echoed across the plains. The beast's gargantuan body was hammered into the earth, its scales shattering like porcelain as black blood erupted in a geyser. With a harrowing roar of agony, the creature slammed into the ground, creating a colossal crater amidst a swirling vortex of dust. Yet, even in the throes of death, it refused to yield. Gritting its fangs against the pain, it whipped its massive tail from the crater, a whistling scythe of destruction surging toward me. My figure flickered, effortlessly weaving past the strike. A streak of deep azure light lashed out from my hand, striking toward the head of the flood dragon like a serpent of pure spiritual energy. The light bound itself instantly around the beast's skull. The flood dragon felt its very soul locked in a gargantuan vice. A marrow-chilling agony surged through it, and its movements slowed to a sluggish crawl. Unwit now. I seized the window of opportunity, shouting a command to the dazed Situ Unwit. Situ Unwit was still reeling from the sheer display of power I had just unleashed. Startled by my cry, she snapped to her senses, her hands dancing as she channeled every ounce of her spiritual energy into the spiritual binding rope. The artifact flared with blinding brilliance, hardening into the sharpness and density of tempered steel. Situ Inuit timed her strike with lethal precision, hurling the rope toward the eye of the flood dragon. It pierced the beast's defenses like a bolt from a crossbow, embedding deep into its eye socket. The flood dragon released a wretched, soul-piercing howl as fresh blood sprayed from its shattered orbit. It thrashed wildly, desperate to dislodge the binding, but the rope held fast, immovable and unyielding. I took the chance to strike once more, forming seals with my hands and chanting the incantation of heaven and earth devastation. Above us, a titanic vortex of spiritual energy manifested in the heavens, swirling with colors that contained the destructive fury of the natural world. I swept my hands outward, slowly crushing the vortex down upon the flood dragon. Sensing the apocalyptic power, the creature's eyes filled with primal terror, but as it desperately tried to flee, the spiritual vortex descended, swallowing the evil flood dragon whole. In an instant, the world erupted in light, a deafening explosion tearing through the air as waves of spiritual force surged outward like a tsunami. The entire earth of the Young Kingdom trembled. Under this absolute force, the body of the flood dragon was shredded into nothingness, dissipating into mere ash. As the evil flood dragon was obliterated, the surrounding chaos slowly returned to a deathly silence. I descended to the earth, my complexion pale and drained. That vicious battle had consumed a vast reserve of my spiritual energy. Situan yet rushed to my side, steadying my wobbling frame. A faint tranquil smile graced my lips. At this moment, the imperial preceptor of the Ung Kingdom, Li Ji, emerged from hiding, his legs trembling as he approached. He gazed at the ruined landscape, his heart a turbulent mix of terror and profound relief. He trembled at the godlike prowess of myself and Situ An Nuyet, yet rejoiced that the Ung Kingdom had finally escaped the curse of the flood dragon. Divine Master, such immense power, Li Ji exclaimed, tears of gratitude streaming down his face. I implore the Divine Master to follow me into the palace. The Emperor has been awaiting your arrival, never expecting you to face the evil flood dragon upon your first step into our lands. Situ Anwet and I nodded, following Li Ji toward the imperial palace of the Young Kingdom. Along the way, the common folk poured from their homes, gazing upon us with eyes brimming with awe and fervent gratitude. They cheered and danced, chanting praise for our longevity and divine status. The clamor echoed from the gates of the capital, all the way to the imperial inner sanctum. The Emperor of the Young Kingdom stood waiting outside the main hall, flanked by his high-ranking ministers. Catching sight of us, the Emperor hurried forward to pay his respects. Infinite gratitude to the two Divine Masters for rescuing the Ung Kingdom from the fires of destruction. I am deeply, eternally indebted to you. The Ung Kingdom was saved. The Emperor spoke with utmost humility. A banquet has been prepared within the palace. I hope the two Divine Masters will do us the honor of attending. Situ Unwit and I followed the Emperor into the opulent palace. Inside, the halls were laden with the rarest delicacies from land and sea. Once everyone was seated, the Emperor personally poured wine for us, expressing his deepest reverence and gratitude. At this very moment, a woman clad in magnificent robes entered the palace with graceful, measured steps. She possessed an ethereal beauty, with skin like untainted snow and eyes shimmering like the stars. Every gesture exuded an aura of nobility and refinement. She was none other than Princess Murong Wanqing of the Yong Kingdom. Before arriving, Murong Wanqing had heard tales of the esteemed immortal master's feat in vanquishing the malevolent flood dragon, and deep down, she already held him in high reverence. Entering the palace, her gaze swept across the crowd and immediately locked onto me. Her eyes sparkled with an inexplicable light. A strange stir in her heart as she slowly approached, bowed deeply, and offered a respectful greeting. This humble one, Murong Wanqing, pays her respects to the immortal master. Her voice was as melodious as a songbird emerging from a valley, exquisitely pleasant to the ear. Having witnessed the immortal master's demeanor today, I am filled with profound admiration. I gave a slight nod and replied courteously, Princess, there is no need for such formalities. Yet Murong Wanqing did not stop there. She took a seat beside me and began to initiate conversation. She questioned me on various aspects of the immortal path, and I patiently addressed each inquiry one by one. Through our discourse, Murong Wanqing became even more awestruck by my profound erudition and extraordinary presence, her admiration intensifying with every passing moment. Yet, preoccupied with the urgent need to restore my spiritual energy, I remained utterly oblivious to her true intentions. Situ Yingyu, watching from the sidelines, observed the entire interaction, and for reasons unknown, a complex emotion welled up within her heart. When she looked toward Murong Wanqing, her gaze even carried a faint hint of hostility. Once the banquet concluded, the Emperor arranged for my quarters, and upon returning to the room, I immediately entered a state of meditative cultivation. To recover the depleted spiritual energy, I channeled my internal flow while Situ Yingyu stood guard by my side. She remained vigilant, alert to the slightest disturbance in the surroundings. Ever since that meeting at the banquet, Murong Wanqing had harbored a deep affection for this immortal master, who carried the aura of a true sage. A man of such transcendent power was a figure she could not easily erase from her mind. The following morning, Murong Wanqing meticulously adorned herself and, filled with anticipation, made her way toward my residence. At that time, I was out in the courtyard, breathing in the spiritual essence of heaven and earth, to continue restoring the energy consumed the previous day. Nearby, Situ Yingyu sat by a stone table, deeply engrossed in studying an ancient cultivation manual. She furrowed her brows slightly, sensing Murong Wanqing's approach. Looking up, she saw Murong Wanqing clad in a flowing pink dress. The hem of her skirt swayed gently in the breeze. It only served to accentuate her elegant and delicate posture. In her hand, she carried a wooden food container. She approached with fluid steps, her expression a mix of bashfulness and unwavering resolve. Immortal Master, good morning. Murong Wanqing entered the courtyard and walked straight to my side. Her voice was gentle and sweet. Though she casually placed the food container on the table, her eyes remained fixed intensely upon me. I opened my eyes slowly, caught sight of Murong Wanqing, and offered a slight nod of acknowledgement. Seeing my lack of fervent response, a flicker of disappointment crossed Murong Wanqing's face, yet she steeled herself, gently opened the container, and revealed delicate pastries alongside a pot of spiritual tea, wisps of steam curling into the air. Immortal Master, yesterday's battle must have consumed a great deal of your strength. I have personally prepared these refreshments, and this spiritual tea. This brew is highly effective for recovering spiritual energy. I hope you will not find it lacking. As she spoke, Murong Wanqing meticulously arranged the pastries and tea on the table. Looking at the offerings, a trace of warmth stirred in my heart, and I replied, Princess, you are most kind. Xianxia is deeply grateful. Murong Wanqing bit her lower lip, hesitated for a long moment, and then spoke. Immortal Master, there is one more request I wish to make, though I am unsure if it is appropriate to speak. I lifted my gaze slightly and said, Princess, please speak freely. Wanqing took a deep breath, gathering all her courage. Since childhood, I have longed for the path of cultivation, but our land is remote and desolate. Cultivation resources are scarce, and despite my relentless efforts to study, I have never found the key to entering the world of immortals. Now that I am fortunate enough to meet you, I implore you to take me as your disciple and impart the teachings of the immortal path. Hearing Murong Wanqing's plea, I could not help but feel momentarily stunned. I looked at the princess before me, her eyes brimming with expectation, and after a brief silence I replied, Princess, the path of cultivation is fraught with peril. It demands an iron will and supreme innate talent, not to mention that the process is incredibly arduous and monotonous. You are the Princess of Yong. You bear the weight of the nation and the hopes of the common people. I fear it would be difficult for you to commit yourself entirely to the path. Murong Wanqing spoke hurriedly. Immortal Master, I fear neither hardship nor danger. I am willing to abandon everything for the sake of cultivation. As long as I can follow by your side and learn the sacred arts, I would have no regrets no matter the price I must pay. I shook my head gently. Princess, the path of immortality is not a matter of fleeting impulse. A flicker of despair crossed Murong Wanqing's eyes, yet she refused to surrender to her fate. Immortal Master, Wanqing knows my aptitude may not compare to Lady Yingyu, but I will toil with doubled efforts to compensate. If you would only grant me the honor of being your disciple, I shall become your most invaluable asset. I swear I shall never let you down. Standing nearby, Situ Yingyu heard these words, an undeniable irritation stirring within her. She stepped forward, asserting that the teachings and legacy of a master are of supreme, sacred value, not something to be bestowed upon others on a whim. Furthermore, the path of immortality demands a heart free from all distractions. As you have already poured all your heart and soul into my cultivation, it would be difficult to divide your focus, to guide the princess. I beseech the princess not to make things difficult for my master. Murong Wanqing gazed at Situ Yingyu, a flash of hostility sparking in her eyes, though she masked it just as quickly. Lady Yingyu, I mean no offense. It is merely that my longing for the immortal path burns too brightly, leading me to act with such abruptness. I heaved a soft sigh. Princess, you are of noble blood, bearing significant status and heavy responsibilities to the wrong kingdom. The path of cultivation is not suited for you. You should remain here in peace and dedicate yourself to the welfare of your people. Tears welled in Murong Wanqing's eyes, her pitiable expression enough to stir anyone's heart. Just as I prepared to turn away, the Emperor of the Wrong Kingdom came rushing toward us in a hurry. Immortal Master, please hold your step. With an anxious countenance, the Emperor stepped forward and offered me a formal salute. I have heard of my sister's plea to you. I know this request is abrupt, yet I am well aware of the obsession that consumes her. Since her youth, her heart has been filled with nothing but dreams of the immortal path. I truly cannot bear to see her suffer such profound disappointment. The Emperor spoke with heartfelt desperation, his eyes filled with both brotherly affection and an earnest expectation of me. I furrowed my brows slightly. Your Majesty, it is not that I am cold-hearted. The path of immortality is no trivial game. It demands immense conditions and the alignment of destiny. The princess is bound by the duties of the Wrong Kingdom. It would be difficult for her to commit herself fully. The Emperor shook his head slowly. Immortal Master, I understand the difficulty of the path, but Wanqing is willing to forsake all for it. I only ask that you give her a single chance to try. If she truly lacks the potential for cultivation, I shall never press the matter again. I fell into deep contemplation. Though Situ Yingye was unwilling, she dared not utter a word of dissent. Murong Wanqing looked at me with eyes full of anticipation, as if her entire hope for existence rested upon my word. After a long moment, I spoke slowly. Since your majesty has shown such sincerity, I shall bring the princess to the sect. But take heed. If she cannot endure the harshness of cultivation, I beg you not to hold me to blame. Upon hearing this, Murong Wanqing wept with joy, hurriedly kneeling to offer her gratitude. Thank you, immortal master. I shall certainly give everything I have. To see her resolve, the Emperor of the Wrong Kingdom was also visibly relieved. He saluted me once more. I shall engrave this great kindness in my heart. The entire Wrong Kingdom will remain forever indebted to your grace. After a brief period of rest, I led Situ Yingyu and Murong Wanqing on the journey back to Taishang sect. Throughout the journey, Murong Wanqing was ecstatic, filled with endless curiosity about everything she beheld. She frequently questioned me about the inner workings of the sect. While Situ Yingyu walked silently by my side, the festering discomfort in her heart grew increasingly apparent. Upon returning to the Taishang sect, the moment we crossed the mountain gates, a pungent stench of blood mingled with demonic qi assaulted our senses. The sect, once a sanctuary of tranquility, was now shrouded in an oppressive, gloomy air. My expression darkened instantly, a premonition of calamity surging within as I sped toward the inner sanctum. Along the way, we discovered the bodies of disciples strewn about, their wounds emitting a sinister, pitch-black glow, the unmistakable mark of a demonic practitioner. At this sight, spiritual energy surged around me as I scanned the surroundings with heightened vigilance. Upon reaching the council hall, we found the elders gathered, their faces grave and somber. Xuanyao, you have returned? The great elder looked at me and nodded slightly. Greetings, great elder. What, in the name of the heavens, has transpired here? How has our sect fallen into such a state? My voice betrayed a deep, gnawing anxiety. The emperor shook his head slightly. Immortal master, I understand the path of cultivation is perilous, but Wanqing is willing to forsake all else for it. I only ask that you grant her a chance to prove her resolve. If she truly lacks the aptitude for cultivation, I shall no longer force the matter. I fell into a deep contemplative silence. Angyu, standing beside me, remained quiet though her displeasure was palpable. Murong Wanqing gazed at me with eyes full of yearning, as if her entire destiny rested within my hands. After a moment I spoke slowly. Since the emperor is so resolute, I shall take the princess back to the sect. But be warned, if the princess cannot endure the hardships of the cultivation path, I ask that the emperor not lay blame upon me. Murong Wanqing wept with joy at these words, hurriedly kneeling to offer her deepest gratitude. Many thanks, immortal master. Wanqing will give everything she has to succeed. Relieved that his expectations were met, the Emperor of Yang beamed with delight. Offering another formal bow, he declared, I shall engrave your great kindness upon my heart. The entire nation of Yang will forever remember this debt. After a brief period of rest, I departed with Situ Angyu and Murong Wanqing, returning toward Taishang sect. Throughout the journey, Murong Wanqing was bubbling with excitement, overflowing with curiosity about everything around her. She constantly bombarded me with questions regarding the inner workings of our sect. Though Situ Angyu walked silently by my side, the irritation simmering within her grew increasingly apparent. Upon returning to Taishang sect and crossing the gates, a pungent stench of blood, choked with demonic aura, slammed into us. The sect, once peaceful and serene, was now shrouded in a grim, suffocating atmosphere. My expression darkened instantly, a sense of foreboding rising in my chest as I raced toward the heart of the sect. Along the way, we discovered countless disciples lying dead, their bodies marred by wounds glowing with a sinister black light, a clear mark of demonic cultivation. At this sight, my spiritual energy surged uncontrollably, my senses scanning the surroundings. When we reached the main hall, we found the elders gathered, their faces grim and heavy. Xuan Miao, you have returned? The great elder nodded toward me, and I asked, Great elder, what exactly has transpired here? How has our sect fallen into such a state? My tone was laced with profound apprehension. The great elder sighed. Shortly after you departed, the sect was suddenly besieged by a band of demonic cultivators. These demons possessed immense strength and cruel, underhanded methods. They corrupted many of our disciples the moment they infiltrated, inflicting catastrophic losses. I furrowed my brow. The timing was far too coincidental. This matter was clearly not as simple as it appeared. After a brief moment of reflection, I spoke once more. When I executed A Qiao at Yongbo, I sensed demonic energy within him. There must be a mastermind pulling the strings from the shadows. It seems A Qiao's appearance was a ruse to lure the tiger from the mountain, though they clearly did not expect that only I would depart. The great elder listened to my analysis and nodded. Your reasoning is sound. These demonic cultivators arrived with ferocious intent, and they seem intimately familiar with the inner structure of Taishang sect. Their objective is likely far more nefarious than mere destruction. Gazing upon this scene of slaughter and sorrow, Murong Wanqing was deeply shaken. Though she knew the path of cultivation was dangerous, the carnage before her surpassed her darkest imagination, yet she secretly clenched her fists, her resolve to cultivate growing more ironclad than ever. The immediate priority is to treat the wounded disciples and purge any lingering demonic cultivators hiding within our walls. I shall inspect the spiritual veins in the back mountain. That is the foundation of our sect's power. We cannot allow a single error there. I looked at the elders treating the wounded in the hall, the peak's masters and the sect leader sitting with eyes closed in meditation, and said, "I will accompany you." Situ Angyu hurriedly interjected, but I replied, "You stay to assist the elders in stabilizing the sect. My speed alone is greater, and I can better adapt to unforeseen dangers." After flatly refusing, I vanished from the assembly hall. Murong Wanqing spoke softly to Situ Fangyu, "Senior sister, I know my current strength and status are insufficient, but I can help care for the injured disciples and contribute in my own small way." Situ Angyu glanced at her and nodded faintly. "Then stay close to me and do not wander off." As I descended upon the spirit veins of the back mountain, I found that the area had been corrupted by a vile demonic formation, and the spirit energy was being drained rapidly. If not stopped immediately, the very foundation of Taishang sect would be shattered, so I unleashed my full spiritual power to strike at the formation. However, the array was incredibly complex, saturated with potent corrupted magic. For a moment, I struggled to break it. Just as I was putting my full force into the strike, several figures emerged from the void around me, clad in black robes and wreathed in demonic miasma. Their eyes burned with malice and arrogance. "You fools of Taishang sect, today shall be your final day." A demonic cultivator shrieked with a twisted, monstrous laugh. My gaze went cold, and my voice turned to ice. "Do you truly believe you lot are enough to stand before me and spew such insolence?" With those words, my figure flickered, closing the distance like a specter. My hand seals shifted rapidly, unleashing a volley of razor-sharp blades that shrieked through the air toward the demonic cultivators. Seeing this, the demonic cultivators frantically unleashed their dark arts to fortify their defenses. In an instant, the collision between the pitch-black demonic energy and my blades erupted in thunderous roars, blinding radiance, and shockwaves that rippled violently in every direction. I immediately activated the spirit concealment heavenly illusion, my form instantly fracturing into countless duplicates, blanketing the sky above the back mountain spiritual vein. These manifestations moved in perfect unison, simultaneously unleashing a barrage of spells, ice shards, lightning orbs, and gale blades that blotted out the heavens and descended upon the demonic horde. Caught off guard by the sheer ferocity of this onslaught, the demonic cultivators were thrown into total disarray. Their formation fractured, yet they refused to surrender to defeat. Their leader surged forward, hands dancing through incantations. A massive surge of viscous, black demonic energy erupted from his palms, manifesting as a titanic barrier that shielded the group and blunted the brunt of my attack. A decent effort, but this is far from enough. My true form remained hidden within the myriad illusions. While the demonic cultivators were preoccupied with my onslaught, I suddenly materialized directly above their leader. With both palms glowing in dazzling golden light and the force to topple mountains and drain seas, I struck down heavily onto his back. This single palm strike contained the entirety of my fury and raw power. The gale generated by the strike roared as if it sought to tear the very space asunder. The demonic leader sensed the peril from above and attempted to evade, but it was already too late. My palms landed squarely on his spine with a deafening dull thud. His hulking frame was driven into the earth. He spewed a mouthful of black blood, and his dark barrier shattered into nothingness. The remaining demonic cultivators fell into a panic upon seeing their leader incapacitated. Seizing the opening, I surged my spiritual energy to its peak, unleashing a torrential wave of techniques that battered them back one by one. Realizing the tide had turned, the remnants of the group fled in terror, vanishing into the depths of the back mountain. I had just caught my breath, yet before I could recover, low guttural growls echoed all around. The guardian spirit beasts of the Taishang sect's spiritual vein stood before me, their eyes burning red and their bodies wreathed in thick demonic miasma. They had been corrupted. They lunged straight for me. These beasts were colossal, possessing monstrous strength, each pounce carrying the force of a battering ram. Daring not to underestimate them, I quickly erected a defensive formation to shroud myself while simultaneously weaving hand seals and chanting, sending precise, lethal strikes toward the beasts. However, the corruption had hardened their hides into impenetrable armor. My attacks barely slowed them, and they charged forward with even greater feral intensity. Just as I fell into a desperate struggle, a terrifyingly powerful aura rippled through the air from afar. My heart skipped a beat. I knew the sect master of Taishang had arrived. I had never truly showcased my cultivation in public. My true strength remained an enigma I could not easily explain. I hastily feigned exhaustion, allowing the beasts to force me back while I cried out, "Sect master, quickly, save me!" The Taishang sect master's figure flashed, instantly descending upon the back mountain spiritual vein. Spiritual energy roiled and churned around him, manifesting as a visible physical aura of light. He cast a frigid, disdainful glance at the corrupted beasts, then let out a cold snort. You wretched things, how dare you run rampant within my Taishang sect? The sect master swept his hands, executing an exceptionally profound cultivation technique. A gargantuan halo of pure spiritual energy materialized in the sky, completely enveloping the spirit beasts. The beasts thrashed and clawed within the halo, yet found themselves utterly imprisoned. With a slow, deliberate closing of his palms, the sect master constricted the halo. The beasts emitted agonized roars, but under the crushing weight of the sect master's suppression, the demonic miasma dissipated, and their sanity slowly flickered back to life. Watching this, I felt a surge of relief, knowing my secrets remained veiled. If they were exposed, the complications would be endless. Many thanks, sect master, for your timely intervention. Had you not arrived, I fear I would have struggled to withstand these corrupted beasts. I spoke with a tone of feigned weakness. The sect master looked at me and nodded slightly. You have worked hard. It seems this demonic infiltration was a calculated, long-planned scheme. We must root out the mastermind behind this to prevent another incursion. They seem to possess an intimate knowledge of our sect, not only pinpointing the back mountain's vein, but also presetting a formation. I suspect there may be an internal traitor among us. I replied. The sect master frowned. Go and rest for now. You must prioritize the recovery of your spiritual energy. As for the aftermath of this calamity, I shall assign others to handle the cleanup, the sect master commanded. I nodded in silence, turning away to depart from the hidden spiritual vein of the back mountain. Upon returning to the cloud pavilion, I immediately entered deep meditation to recover my depleted essence, all the while weighing the implications of the demonic cultivator's assault and the chilling possibility of a traitor lurking within our ranks. While I remained in seclusion, Situ Yingyu and Murong Wanqing were tirelessly tending to the wounded disciples across the sect. Though Murong Wanqing's cultivation base was modest, she acted with absolute devotion, bringing water and medicine to the injured and offering words of comfort to soothe their fractured spirits. Witnessing her selfless dedication, Situ Yingyu's perception of her began to shift. She realized that Murong Wanqing was far more than a delicate princess. Beneath that exterior beat a heart of unwavering kindness and steel-willed resolve. Wanqing, take a moment to rest. You have been toiling for far too long. Situ Yingyu spoke gently. Wanqing shook her head. Senior sister, I am not tired. I only wish to contribute what I can to the sect. Our brothers and sisters bled to protect this home. This is the very least I can do. A ripple of emotion stirred in Situ Yingzhu's heart as she patted Murong Wanqing's shoulder. Wanqing, you have done well. I believe in you. You shall surely grow into an exceptional cultivator in the days to come. Hearing these words from Situ Yingyue, Murong Wanqing was overcome with joy and profound gratitude. She realized that she was finally gaining acceptance among the members of the Taishang sect, a realization that only solidified her ironclad resolve to pursue the path of cultivation. After a period of intense cultivation, my spiritual energy had recovered by more than half. I resolved to begin my hunt for the traitor hidden within our gates. I first ventured to the sect scripture pavilion, intending to scour the records for any disciple who had recently consulted texts regarding the layout of the back mountain's spiritual vein. Deep within the archives, I meticulously combed through the loan ledgers. Suddenly I uncovered a record belonging to a disciple named Lin Yu. Days before the demonic incursion, he had checked out a manual detailing the structure of the back mountain's spiritual vein and its defensive formations, and the scroll had yet to be returned. The name Lin Yu felt entirely unfamiliar to me. To which peak did this disciple belong? My mind was clouded with growing suspicion. Departing from the library, I made for the disciple management hall to pull Lin Yu's file. After a brief search, I discovered that Lin Yu was a disciple of the beast-taming Peak, a mediocre individual who rarely drew the gaze of others. Why would such an insignificant figure suddenly seek out restricted tactical knowledge? Could he truly be the traitor? My doubts hardened into conviction, and I decided to track him down to demand the truth. Guided by the location data from the management hall, I arrived at Lin Yu's quarters. However, as I pushed open the door, I found the chamber deserted, save for a single scrap of paper left upon the table. I lifted the parchment, reading the words. By the time you find this, I shall have already abandoned the Taishang sect. And discovery was inevitable, but I was forced into this by circumstances beyond my control. The demonic cultivator seized my family, threatening their lives to coerce my service. I have betrayed the sect, but I could not stand by and watch my kin perish. Having finished the note, I released a heavy, weary sigh. I resolved to intercept Lin Yu, rescue his family, and then extract the truth about the demonic forces. Sensing the lingering trace of his aura within the room, I gave chase without a moment's hesitation. I tracked his signature across the mountain range, leading me deep into a desolate, mist-choked valley. The valley was thick with suffocating demonic energy. It was clear this place was a staging ground for the enemy. Stealthily advancing into the valley, I spotted Lin Yu held captive by several demonic cultivators, while his family remained shackled in a cage, their faces masks of terror and utter despair. Lin Yu, why would you betray the sect? Me. A flicker of cunning crossed Lin Yu's eyes, though he quickly masked it with a display of feigned remorse. Uncle Rasong, I had no choice. They promised that if I fulfilled their demands, they would set my family free. You are far too naive. How could you ever trust the word of a demonic cultivator? The fools of Taisheng sect have truly walked right into their own graves. A demonic cultivator, appearing to be their leader, stepped forward trailed by a swarm of his dark kin. Demonic scum have committed countless atrocities. Today marks the final reckoning for you all. I glared at the demonic leader, my voice trembling with fury. Let us see if you truly possess the strength to back up those words. With a flick of his wrist, the leader signaled his followers, who simultaneously unleashed a torrent of dark arts toward the three of us. I immediately manifested a defensive formation. After shielding the trio, I poured every ounce of my cultivation into maintaining the barrier. Their relentless assaults hammered the formation like a torrential storm, the light flickering violently, threatening to shatter at any heartbeat. I knew all too well that if I did not devise a countermeasure, once the barrier collapsed, we would all be slaughtered. Lin Yu, take the family and seize this chance to escape toward the valley entrance. I will hold them off. I bellowed at the top of my lungs. Lin Yu responded, a flash of hesitation crossing his eyes, but under my steely gaze he gave a curt nod. He gripped his artifact tightly, poised and ready to strike at a moment's notice. I drew a deep breath, hands moving in a blur to weave seals, chanting the incantations of the Gale Wind Art. Savage blades of spiritual wind shrieked from the barrier, tearing through the air toward the demonic ranks. The demonic cultivators scrambled to erect defensive barriers, yet several were carved open by the wind blades, their agonized howls echoing through the valley. The demonic leader's expression darkened. He danced his hands through the air, spitting out a stream of viscous, pitch-black, demonic energy that coalesced into a colossal phantom serpent, surging toward my formation. The phantom serpent gaped its blood-red maw, baring jagged fangs as if to devour my entire defensive field in a single bite. My eyes narrowed. I focused all my spiritual essence into my palms and pushed outward with a thunderous roar. Spirit shield, demonic rupture. A massive shield of condensed spirit energy erupted from my palms, colliding violently with the serpent. Both forces locked in a savage, evenly matched stalemate. And Lin Yu, go now. I roared the command. Lin Yu gritted his teeth and surged with the family toward the valley exit. The demonic cultivators tried to intercept them, but my suppression held them in a vice grip, preventing their escape. Just as Lin Yu reached the threshold of the valley, he suddenly stopped and spun around to face me. My heart seized. An ominous premonition washed over me. Lin Yu, what are you doing? Quickly, I screamed in mounting anxiety. He wore a twisted smile as his artifact flared with light, firing a bolt of pitch-black demonic energy directly into my back. The strike was blindingly fast, leaving me with no chance to evade. As the dark energy pierced me, a surge of agonizing torment racked my frame, and I vomited a spray of fresh blood. My defensive formation instantly dissolved, shattered by my sudden instability. Lin Yu, I whirled around to confront him, my eyes wide with utter disbelief. Lin Yu let out a chilling, sharp laugh. Uncle Master Zhang, I never expected your strength to be this formidable, but your wits seem remarkably dull. Did you never bother to investigate who I truly am? Where would I even dig up a family to protect? Ha ha! Hearing his mocking words, the rage within me erupted like a dormant volcano. The demonic leader cackled with maniacal glee. The fools of Taisheng sect truly walked into the net, only to dream of saving lives and ruining my plans. Today shall be the anniversary of your death. With that, the demonic horde lunged toward my wounded form like starved wolves. Ignoring the agony, I rapidly deployed my shadow clones, creating several illusions to misdirect the oncoming wave. Simultaneously, I silently condensed my remaining spiritual energy, preparing for a fight to the death. Confused by the decoys, the demonic cultivators fell into disarray, their formation collapsing into chaos. Seizing the opening, I unleashed the spirit-severing finger, a needle-thin, razor-sharp beam of energy that pierced the demonic leader's chest. He realized the threat too late, failing to evade the strike, and crashed to the ground in a spray of blood. Seeing their leader fallen, the remaining cultivators panicked, yet they continued to swarm me with maddened desperation. Despite my wounds, fear was nowhere to be found in my heart. Under the cover of my illusions, I drifted fluidly through the sea of enemies. My hand seals shifted rhythmically, unleashing violent vortices of spiritual wind that pulverized every incoming attack. The demonic cultivators struggled to regain their footing, but they were far from defeated, quickly recalibrating their tactics. One of them knotted his hands together, chanting a forbidden mantra until the earth cracked open, releasing thick black vines that coiled around me like vipers. I vaulted into the air, narrowly dodging the encroaching tendrils, and slammed both palms downward, unleashing a torrent of searing flames that incinerated the vines into ash. At this moment, Lin Yu stood aside, observing coldly, clutching a jet-black demonic blade that flickered with an eerie, sinister light. Uncle Master Zhang, cease your futile resistance. Today, this place shall become your burial ground. With those words, he swung his demonic blade and charged into the fray. While parrying the onslaught of the demonic cultivators, I kept my guard high, focused squarely on Lin Yu. I knew full well that Lin Yu's betrayal of the Taisheng sect was absolute. My heart was torn between searing rage and bitter regret. Lin Yu, why are you still lost in this darkness, unwilling to see the truth? The path of the demonic cultivator leads only to your eternal destruction. As if his mind were shrouded by demonic obsession, Lin Yu paid no heed to my warnings. His strikes became increasingly vicious and unpredictable. Wherever his demonic blade traveled, the very air seemed to weep. The surges of spiritual energy tore through the atmosphere, rending space itself asunder. Searching for an opening amidst the chaos, I realized that while the demonic cultivators were fierce, their coordination was riddled with flaws. Seeing my chance, I vanished from my position, reappearing instantly behind a cultivator, and unleashed a palm strike brimming with explosive spiritual power. The force of my impact shattered his body, reducing him to a fine mist of blood and bone. The remaining demonic cultivators recoiled in shock, their momentum faltering for a heartbeat. I seized the opportunity to surge toward Lin Yu, determined to bring this traitor to heel. Before the others could react, Lin Yu caught sight of my charge. A flash of panic crossed his face, only to be consumed by a surge of madness. He raised his demonic blade, pouring his remaining strength into a desperate, crushing blow. The blade's aura shimmered with black demonic energy, striking out like a bolt of dark lightning. I pivoted to evade the strike, simultaneously grabbing his wrist and twisting it with bone-crushing force. Lin Yu cried out in agony as his weapon clattered to the ground. I pinned him, sealing his meridians with my own spiritual energy, and demanded, "What is the true objective of the demonic sect?" Lin Yu merely gritted his teeth, refusing to utter a single word. The leader of the demonic faction stumbled to his feet, casting a glare of pure malice at the incapacitated Lin Yu. "Listless trash. You couldn't even finish such a simple task." With a flick of his hands, he began to chant an ancient forbidden incantation. The surrounding demonic energy converged rapidly, weaving itself into a massive swirling vortex of darkness. A power of terrifying, suffocating proportions lay coiled within that abyss. I felt a gravitational pull so immense it threatened to rip my very soul from my body. Gripping Lin Yu, I struggled against the encroaching void, but the suction grew ever more violent. My feet left the earth, and I was dragged helplessly toward the maw of the vortex. Just as I was on the brink of being consumed, I focused every ounce of my remaining spiritual energy. A blinding ray of golden light erupted from my hands, forming a protective shroud around myself and Lin Yu. The golden brilliance clashed against the black vortex, locked in a brutal stalemate of power. Seeing this, the remaining cultivators poured their energy into the fray, desperate to drag us into the darkness. I knew I could not hold this stance for long. I had to find a way to shatter their formation immediately. A plan flashed through my mind, and in a sudden decisive move I hurled Lin Yu toward the vortex. Lin Yu screamed in terror as he was instantly swallowed by the swirling void. The black vortex flickered with instability the moment it consumed him. I seized the opening, condensing my spiritual power into a focused beam of light and firing it directly at the demonic leader. Caught off guard, the leader was struck head-on, his body flung across the canyon to shatter against the jagged cliffs. Seeing their leader defeated, the morale of the demonic cultivators crumbled. I unleashed a storm of wind blades and lightning orbs that hammered them without mercy. Faced with overwhelming carnage, the survivors broke ranks and fled in every direction. Ignoring their escape, I approached the fallen leader. He lay gasping for breath, his eyes still burning with venomous hatred. "You will never pry the truth from me." I stared down at him with icy indifference. "Whether you speak or not, I will uncover your machinations. The Taishang sect shall leave no stone unturned in hunting your kind to extinction." With a final surge of will, I commanded my spiritual energy to draw him close, completely locking his vital meridians. With the prisoner secured, I wasted no time, returning swiftly to the gates of the Taishang sect. Along the path, I feigned a grievous injury, my gait faltering with every step, my face as pale as parchment. Once I returned to the sect and turned the captured leader over to the law enforcement hall, I retreated directly toward Yun Pavilion. To disciples who approached with concern, I merely waved a weak hand, signaling my desperate need for solitude and rest. The moment I crossed the threshold of Yun Pavilion, I collapsed into my seat, exhaling a breath of profound relief. There is truly no greater pleasure than a life of absolute ease. It is not that I lack loyalty to the sect, but there are far more capable experts here. My presence is hardly essential. Furthermore, with the demon cultivator's interrogation already handled, there is no further need for my intervention. It is time to return to my life of sloth. Meanwhile, in other corners of the sect, Situ Yingyu and Murong Wanqing were laboring tirelessly to treat the wounded disciples. Though her spiritual energy is meager, Murong Wanqing ignored the exhaustion, darting back and forth to provide medicine and water, offering solace to those in pain. Situ Yingyu watched Murong Wanqing's earnest dedication, her heart swelling with newfound admiration and respect. "Wanqing, you are driving yourself to the brink. You must remember to look after your own health." Yingyu spoke with genuine concern. Wanqing shook her head softly. "Senior sister, I'm perfectly fine. These senior brothers and sisters were wounded defending our sect. What little I can do is truly insignificant. I only hope to offer what small strength I possess." Situ Yingyu gently patted her shoulder. "You have already done more than enough. Through our time together, I have seen that you are truly kind-hearted and remarkably resilient. And Wang Qing's face flushed a deep crimson, her heart overflowing with emotion. Here, in the unfamiliar surroundings of Taisheng sect, Situ Yingyu's acknowledgement brought a profound sense of warmth to her soul. Upon learning of my return, Situ Yingyu and Murong Wanqing quickly finished their duties and hurried back to Yun Peak. As she entered Yun Pavilion, Situ Yingyu rushed to my side, her eyes etched with deep anxiety. Master, I heard the senior brother say you were wounded. Where are you hurt? Is the injury severe? Situ Yingyu unleashed a barrage of questions, leaving me struggling to keep up with her sudden intensity. Never had I expected that my usually cold and aloof disciple could harbor such deep concern for me. The worry on Murong Wanqing's face was even more visible, her eyes shimmering with a mist of tears, as if she were on the verge of weeping. Watching their anxious faces, a spark of warmth stirred within me as I waved my hand. I am fine. A few days of rest will suffice. There is no need for such excessive worry. Murong Wanqing could not suppress a soft sob. Master, you must nourish your body and recover quickly. Situ Yingyu, however, knitted her brows, appearing unconvinced. She scrutinized me closely, attempting to uncover any subtle cracks in my facade. At that very moment, the voice of the thousand-year ancient spirit resonated within the sea of consciousness of Situ Yingyu. Young mistress, have no fear. That expert is perfectly fine. Those are merely superficial wounds. Everything you see is nothing more than a calculated performance. Upon hearing the spirit's words, Situ Yingyu froze in disbelief. A performance? Situ Yingyu observed me once more and realized my breath was perfectly steady, not at all like one suffering from grievous wounds. All her worry had been for naught. It was all a deception. A surge of indignation rose within her chest. In that case, pray, stay here and rest as you please. Wanqing, we are leaving. Pay him no further mind. Situ Yingyu grabbed Murong Wanqing and turned to depart. But Murong Wanqing looked on, bewildered, casting lingering glances at me, her eyes filled with confusion and lingering concern. Master, please rest well. Senior sister and I are going to tend to the other disciples. Before stepping out, Murong Wanqing called back to me one last time. I nodded, watching them fade into the distance. Seeing their newfound harmony, I sighed to myself. Perhaps this is the influence of Murong Wanqing's presence. It is truly for two girls of such polar opposite temperaments to grow so close while tending to the wounded. I am well aware of Murong Wanqing's obsession with the Tao of cultivation, and I know how deeply she respects me. I found myself wavering, uncertain whether I should truly accept her as my disciple. Several days later, my injuries had completely mended. I sat before the cloud pavilion, savoring the tranquil majesty of the surrounding mountain forests. Situ Yingyu and Murong Wanqing approached me in tandem. Master, how are your injuries faring? Situ Yingyu inquired with genuine concern, her tone carrying a subtle, lingering nuance. They have improved significantly. I thank you both for your dedicated care throughout this time. I feigned total ignorance of the underlying tension. I replied with a calm, measured smile. A faint flush graced Murong Wanqing's beautiful features as she whispered, "It is only natural for us to serve you. Revered Master, you have sacrificed far too much for us." Situ Yingyu did not hesitate further, cutting straight to the heart of the matter. Master, is it not finally time for you to accept junior sister Wanqing as your disciple? I paused, caught off guard that Situ Yingyu would be the one to initiate this request. I fell into deep contemplation, my gaze lingering on the hopeful expression in Murong Wanqing's eyes. Wanqing, do you realize that the path of cultivation is paved with thorns, requiring immense struggle and sacrifice rather than an overnight breakthrough? Wanqing nodded solemnly. I understand well, Master. I am willing to pay any price to follow you and master the sacred arts of immortality. I watched her in silence, feeling a rare stir of emotion within me. Very well, from this day forth, you are my second disciple. You must cultivate with absolute devotion and never forsake your original vow. Murong Wanqing's eyes welled with emotion as she bowed deeply. I shall strictly adhere to your teachings, Master, and cultivate with all my might. Situ Yingyu patted her shoulder, a flicker of joy illuminating her eyes. Congratulations, junior sister Wanqing. At that precise moment, the system's cold voice resonated within my mind. Ding, disciple recruitment successful. Reward void illusion, progress increased by 1, current status, 7%. Due to the disciple's unique bloodline, a special reward has been granted. Volume 1 of the Primordial Witch Arts. Subsequently, the system's attribute panel displayed the personal information of Murong Wanqing. Name, Murong Wanqing. Talent, 2nd tier. Realm, none. Techniques, none. Loyalty, 100. Bloodline, descendant of the goddess Nuwa, a remnant of the ancient witch tribe. My heart hammered against my ribs. I never imagined she would possess the legendary blood of the Nuwa lineage. I pondered this revelation, recalling the primordial witch arts the system had just bestowed. An archaic manual so rare that only those with a pure witch bloodline could hope to master it. Up till this very moment, Murong Wanqing appeared entirely oblivious to the dormant power flowing through her veins. Yet the sheer determination she displayed to join my sect left me profoundly intrigued. A deep curiosity stirred within me to uncover the truth behind her origins. I resolved to find a suitable moment to probe further. Days later, I summoned Murong Wanqing to the inner chamber of the Cloud Pavilion. Wanqing, I have a special gift meant specifically for you. Murong Wanqing lifted her head in astonishment, gazing at me with bewilderment. I produced an ancient weathered scroll and offered it to her. This is an ancient technique known as the primordial witch arts. It was forged solely for those who carry the noble blood of the witch tribe. It is my hope that you shall inherit this forgotten legacy. Murong Wanqing accepted the scroll, her eyes clouded with profound doubt. Master, why would this ancient manual choose me? I offered a faint, enigmatic smile. Because you are my newly accepted disciple, and more importantly, I have uncovered your secret. Murong Wanqing's heart skipped a beat, her eyes widening as she searched my face. You are a descendant of the goddess Nuwa, possessing the purest of witch bloodlines. I stated, my tone indifferent yet authoritative. Murong Wanqing stood rooted to the spot, utterly stunned. She had never once suspected she carried such an exalted lineage. Master, how could you have known? I smiled faintly, because I am your master. I possess the means to peer through the veil of one's bones and blood essence. Furthermore, this primordial witch arts manual can only be unsealed by the true bloodline of the witches. That is precisely why I chose you. Only then did the realization dawn upon Murong Wanqing, leaving her in absolute awe. So my master had known my true identity all along. A wave of profound emotion washed over her, deeply touched by the trust and support bestowed upon her by her master. Master, I shall never fail your expectations. I will devote myself to this cultivation. She inherited the primordial shaman art. I gave a slight nod. Very well, I trust that you will surely succeed. Ever since I passed on the primordial shaman art to Murong Wanqing, I retreated into my usual state of lazy indifference. Every day, I was either leisurely casting a fishing line by the stream behind the mountain, or chasing wild rabbits in the deep woods, acting as if the sect's affairs had absolutely nothing to do with me. Meanwhile, Murong Wanqing poured her heart and soul into practicing the primordial shaman art within the Cloud Pavilion. As her cultivation deepened, she gradually felt the ancestral shaman bloodline churning within her body, as if a mysterious ancient power was guiding her path forward. Situ Yingyu felt a sense of helplessness at my indolence, yet she understood that the master had his own grand design. She stopped questioning and stayed by Murong Wanqing's side, their sisterly bond growing stronger through their shared cultivation. One day, I was lounging on the grassy bank, a blade of grass between my teeth, basking in the sunlight. Suddenly, a series of frantic, thunderous bells echoed throughout the sect. This bell was the signal for an emergency assembly. My heart jolted as I sensed a dark omen, a grave crisis was unfolding. True to my intuition, the moment the ringing ceased, the sect master's disciple appeared before me. I rose sluggishly, straightened my robes, and made my way toward the great hall of council. Upon arrival, I found the elders and core disciples already gathered, the atmosphere thick with suffocating tension. The sect master stood at the dais, his expression grim. Listen well, for our Taishang sect guards the most potent spirit vein in the world. If this endless font of power falls to the demonic cultivators, the world will be plunged into an age of shadow and utter chaos. Their latest assault is a calculated strike to seize this vein, and from there subjugate the entire world of cultivation. Everyone gasped in cold realization, and I felt a chill run down my spine. Never had I imagined that the Taishang sect bore such a heavy, world-defining burden. An elder knitted his brows. Sectmaster, how shall we respond? The demonic cultivators have discovered the secret of the vein. They will never give up and are surely planning another strike. The sectmaster nodded slowly. You are correct. We must fortify our defenses, and I have decided to seal the mountain gate, cutting off all paths for intruders. Hearing this, the hall fell into a deep silence as everyone weighed the implications of a total lockdown. While a seal could block the demonic filth to an extent, it also meant severing all ties and communication with the outside world. Resource gathering would become grueling, and prolonged isolation risked narrowing the horizons of our disciples. Yet, with the demonic threat looming so close, it was a desperate, unavoidable measure. Sectmaster, we cannot merely sit and wait for death. Should we consider alternatives? If we establish perimeter detection and defense formations, we can preempt their movements and counterattack the moment they approach. Zhu Xixiang was the first to step forward with his proposal. The sectmaster's eyes brightened. Xixiang, that is not a bad idea, but such arrays require vast resources and manpower, and the demonic cultivators have their own masters of formation. Bypassing them will not be easy. At this moment, Chao Di stood up. Sectmaster, I wish to redeem my past mistakes by venturing beyond the gates to scout their movements. If we can locate their lair and eliminate them at the source, we can avert this disaster before it truly begins. The sectmaster looked at the fervent Chao Di and nodded slightly. Your courage is commendable, but the demonic cultivators are cunning and treacherous. The path ahead is filled with lethal peril. Are you certain you can handle this? Chao Di hesitated, his gaze darting toward me as I lounged in my chair. Sectmaster, for the safety of the sect, I am willing to brave this danger, but I fear my strength alone is insufficient. I request that Uncle Master Zhang Xuanjiao accompany me for support. Hearing this, I nearly slid off my seat, my heart wailing in despair. My peaceful days had barely begun, so why was I being dragged into this mess? But with dozens of eyes locked onto me, I could not openly refuse. Judy, why must you always target me? My injuries have barely healed. I have not yet fully recovered my cultivation. I scrambled for an excuse to deflect the duty. The sect master fixed his gaze on me, his eyes filled with a heavy unspoken expectation. Xuanjiao though, the Chaldee's idea is bold. Your primary mission is to gather intelligence. Do not engage directly. If you find their lair, return immediately, and we shall decide our next move. I sighed in defeat, knowing there was no escape. Fine, since the sect master has spoken, I will accompany this boy. But be warned, my strength is limited. I am responsible for reconnaissance only, not for slaughtering the enemy. Xiaodi was overjoyed at my agreement. Many thanks, Uncle Master. With you by my side, we will surely succeed. Everything in the past was my fault, and I entrust our mission to you. The team was quickly assembled and set out beyond the mountain gates. Along the journey, I noticed Xiaodi's eyes flashing with strange unrecognizable glints, but I paid them no mind. When Murong Wanqing and Situ Yingyu heard I was leaving the mountain again, they defied my objections and insisted on coming along. Walking beside me, Murong Wanqing whispered, Master, I've always felt that something is not right about Xiaodi. No sooner had he finished speaking, Xiaodi halted in his tracks and pivoted, his expression twisting into a mask of feral hostility, shedding every veneer of his former subservience. Observing Xiaodi's incessant, cold laughter and the venomous spite in his eyes, it was clear he had abandoned all pretenses. Zhang Xuanjiao, you have finally fallen into my trap. The disciples of the Sword Peak swarmed forward, tightening a lethal circle around the three of us. Yinqiu and Murong Wanqing were caught off guard by the sudden turn of events, yet they instinctively shifted into defensive stances. Conversely, I seem to have anticipated half of this, my composure remaining entirely unshaken. Standing there calmly as the two beauties, Situ Yingyu and Murong Wanqing, moved to shield me, my nonchalant demeanor only drove Qiao Di into a further frenzy. Zhang Xuanjiao, you spineless coward. Last time you hid behind some monster, and now you cower behind two of your own disciples? Today is the day of your demise, and not a soul in this world can save you. Situ Yingyu stepped closer to me, shouting at Qiao Di, cease your madness. To plot against your master and your peers is nothing short of betrayal to the sect. You shall meet a wretched end for this. Qiao Di curled his lip in contempt. Betrayal to the sect? Ridiculous. Once Zhang Xuanjiao is dead, the duel between you and Lin Shiyuan will cease to exist entirely. By then, the Yun Peak will be annexed by my Sword Peak, and my master ascending to the position of sect leader is only natural. How could that ever be called betrayal? Hearing this, Situ Yingyu was struck with horror. She never imagined Qiao Di harbored such grand ambition, conspiring to incite internal strife within the sect, just to achieve his dark unspoken goals. Qiao Di, you are truly delusional. The Tai Shang sect has always valued harmony above all. How could it ever tolerate such reckless, wicked behavior from the likes of you? Su Yingyu lashed out in fury. Sword shadows flickered and sparks erupted violently as blades clashed. Murong Wanqing unleashed the arts of the archaic Shaman Sutra, her hands weaving seals while she chanted, causing vines to surge from the earth like serpentine spirits, constricting the Sword Peak disciples. Those ensnared struggled against the binding vines, and in their moment of distraction, Situ Yingyu seized the chance to repel them. Nevertheless, the Sword Peak disciples were numerous and possessed formidable strength. Despite the suppression, their combat instincts remained sharp. Under the relentless barrage of their onslaught, Situ Yingyu and Murong Wanqing began to falter, their stamina waning. Seeing my disciples pushed to the brink, I hesitated no longer. I quickly formed hand seals, hidden within the shadows of the chaos. Unseen by Situ Yingyu and Murong Wanqing, I silently unleashed a surge of spiritual essence. This flow of energy bled into the surroundings, instantly manifesting as ethereal threads of spirit power, weaving toward the unsuspecting Sword Peak disciples. These threads were imperceptible, and the disciples remained utterly oblivious to their presence. Once within reach, the spiritual silk tightened like a dense, inescapable net, binding their limbs and causing their movements to grind to a sluggish, discordant halt. Situ Yingyu immediately sensed the enemy's offense wavering. Though confusion flickered in her heart, she had no leisure to contemplate it further. Her voice, strained by shock and the erosion of demonic energy, became ragged and intermittent. Feng Huo didn't even grant him a single glance. He simply stared coldly at the three of us. A cruel, predatory smile curled at the corners of his mouth. I knit my brows, an intense growing unease gnawing at my resolve. I knew with absolute certainty that Feng Huo's appearance was far from a mere coincidence. Behind this incident, a vast and sinister scheme was undoubtedly being set into motion. Qiao Di, you are nothing but a pawn to be discarded. Know your place and perform your duty. Feng Huo spoke with cold, cutting disdain, leaving Qiao Di wide-eyed, his face twisted in utter, disbelieving shock. Feng Huo let out a frigid huff. Do you truly believe your petty ambitions could amount to anything grand? You are merely the shadow I used to step onto this chessboard. Seizing the opening, Yingyu and Wanqing stabilized their stances, exchanging a look of silent coordination before striking the struggling disciples, intent on clearing these pests to rush to my aid. By now, Qiao Di and I had engaged directly, our forms blurred and twining in a high-speed dance amidst the air. Our velocity reached its absolute limit, leaving only trails of phantom light in our wake. Every collision resonated with the violent clash of spiritual and demonic forces. Thunderous explosions roared, as if the very fabric of space were buckling under the pressure. Chowdi grew increasingly frantic as the duel raged on. He had assumed his plan, backed by the strength of the Sword Peak disciples, would easily bring Zhang Xuanjiao and the others to their knees. Obscure, demonic chants echoed as he cast his spell, and the ground began to tremble, birthing malformed, demonic creatures from jagged abyssal cracks. These monstrosities possessed grotesque forms and reeked of rot, their eyes burning with a ghoulish crimson light as they lunged toward us. My gaze turned glacial. My hands transitioned through a rapid series of seals as I whispered the incantation. In a split second, countless golden blades of light descended from the sky like a torrential rain, piercing toward the demonic creatures. These blades of light were imbued with overwhelming spiritual power. Wherever they struck, the demonic creatures were run through, their agonizing roars echoing through the sky amidst the shrieking wind. I swung my hand, unleashing a blade of spiritual energy at the demon hawk, but it nimbly dodged the attack, circled through the air, and lunged toward me once more. "Master, watch out for the demonic pet." Stu Yingyu shouted a warning. I understood clearly that I had to neutralize this beast before I could reach Feng Huo. I drew a deep breath, pushing my internal spiritual energy to its absolute limit, and manifested a razor-sharp longsword in my hand. I danced with the blade, engaging the demon hawk in a fierce, high-stakes duel. The hawk launched relentless aerial assaults, its talons and beak dripping with potent demonic energy. I seized the perfect opening and unleashed a lethal slash of spiritual energy directly at the beast. The demon hawk failed to evade in time. Struck by the sword aura, its left wing emitted a wretched, piercing cry. As it faltered in the air, I pressed my advantage, hurling another razor-sharp bolt of spiritual energy that tore through the sky. Sensing a mortal threat, the demon hawk beat its wings violently, desperate to flee the battlefield. But my movements were faster. I lunged forward, vaulted into the midair, and swept out a massive wave of spiritual force. The light surged with brilliant intensity, instantly shredding the demon hawk's body as it let out one final, agonizing shriek. As its massive carcass plummeted to the ground, I did not stop. Using the momentum, I shot forward like an arrow, closing the distance to Feng Huo. Seeing this, Feng Huo was struck with terror and hurriedly summoned a black shield to block his front. My speed was lightning fast. My spiritual energy slammed into the shield with a deafening, metallic crash. The shield shuddered violently, sending ripples of demonic energy tearing through the surroundings. Feng Huo was knocked back by the sheer force, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. Taking advantage of his instability, I flicked my wrist, instantly weaving my spiritual energy into thousands of threads to seal his vital meridian points. Panic flared in Feng Huo's eyes as he felt an unprecedented lethal threat. His entire body broke out in cold sweat. At this life-or-death moment, he poured every ounce of his remaining demonic power into his blade, attempting one final, desperate counterattack. His demonic sword turned pitch black, exuding a terrifying aura that tore through the air to clash against my spiritual energy. The collision of spiritual and demonic forces erupted into a massive shockwave. The very earth shook, and beneath the intensity of the impact, a heaven-shattering roar echoed through the firmament, obliterating the landscape into ruin. As the dust cleared, Feng Huo was seen stumbling back dozens of paces, his face ghastly pale, while I stood unmoved, remaining exactly where I had started. Feng Huo gripped his demonic sword, grinding his teeth. "Zhang Xuanyao, mark my words, this is but a temporary setback. One day, I will make you pay for this blood debt in full." With that, he plunged himself into the darkness and fled. I watched the direction he vanished into, my gaze profound and silent. I knew deep down that this battle was far from over. Feng Huo was certainly backed by a greater force, but my priority now was the immediate crisis at hand. I turned to look at Situ Ying and Murong Wanqing, asking, with concern, "Are you two unharmed?" Though exhausted, Situ Yingyu and Murong Wanqing maintained their guard. "Do not worry, master, we are fine," Situ Yingyu added. "It is the other Sword Peak disciples." My expression darkened. I knew they would face justice for what had transpired. I approached the disciples who had been corrupted by the demonic creatures, and tapped lightly upon their foreheads. My ancestral force rippled forth, and as I moved, their wounds began to knit together, the lingering demonic miasma vanishing in its wake. Sita Yingyu and Murong Wanqing watched in stunned silence, their hearts full of awe. At that very instant, a vision flashed within my sea of consciousness. I closed my eyes, delving deep into my meditative state. The image of the small dog appeared clearly in my mind, its eyes conveying an urgent, desperate message. Through the dog's perspective, I witnessed a harrowing, bone-chilling scene unfolding deep within the Taishang sect. Scores of demonic cultivators had infiltrated the sect, clashing with the disciples, while the peak masters and elders were nowhere to be found. The sect disciples were being pushed back, suffering heavy and tragic casualties. I opened my eyes, a flicker of cold sorrow passing through my gaze. The sect was in the throes of disaster and could not wait a moment longer. I had to return at once. I spoke with decisive, ironclad resolve to Su Yingyu and Murong Wanqing. "Demonic cultivators are rampaging through our sect. The situation is critical. We must return at full speed. Yan Ba and his two companions streaked across the sky like falling stars, racing desperately toward the Taishang sect. My heart burned with frantic urgency. The Taishang sect is a legendary pillar of the cultivation world with profound heritage. For demonic cultivators to raise it completely is no small feat. Yet, the sect masters and elders have vanished, and the disciples are suffering grievous casualties. The situation has descended into pure catastrophe. Within the Taishang sect, chaos reigns supreme. Demonic cultivators clad in obsidian robes, wreathed in swirling malevolent energy, chant dark incantations and unleash wicked arts in a desperate, life-or-death struggle against the sect's disciples. Though the disciples fight with their final breaths, the demonic cultivators possess overwhelming strength and terrifying, seamless coordination. Countless disciples fall, one by one, beneath the brutal onslaught. As we arrived, the sight before us made our eyes blaze with fury. The grand plaza was carpeted with the corpses of disciples, blood turning the ground into a crimson mire. The survivors continued to hold the line, their eyes burning with unyielding defiance despite the exhaustion etched into their pale faces. I let out a thunderous roar, "Insolent fiends," and plunged into the fray. My palms danced, unleashing a tidal wave of spirit power that instantly coalesced into a colossal vortex of energy. The approaching demonic cultists were swept into the vacuum, the internal pressure of the vortex shredding their bodies into fragments as their screams of agony pierced the air. Sidu Yingyu and Merong Wanqing refused to be outdone. Sticking close to my back, they unleashed their own devastating techniques. The divine artifact in Situ Yingyu's grasp blazed with radiant power, each strike carrying the weight of a mountain. Amidst the flickering shadows and flashes of light, the demonic cultivators were purged one by one. Wanqing wove her hands into a complex seal, chanting ancient forbidden hexes. A deep, ethereal emerald radiance spread rapidly from beneath her feet. Wherever this light touched, the demonic cultivators slowed, their movements hindered as if they were wading through thick, suffocating mire. Seizing the opportunity, the Taishang disciples launched a ferocious counterattack, and the tide of battle finally began to turn. As I fought, I kept a sharp gaze on the movements of the enemy. I discovered that these demonic cultivators were positioned according to a precise, intricate formation. Their malevolent energy resonated in perfect harmony, constructing a formidable, specialized array. I immediately realized this was the key to why the sect masters and elders had been unable to manifest. My body flickered like a phantom through the ranks. With a rapid shift of my hand seals, a massive spiritual manifestation descended from the heavens, slamming violently into the heart of their formation. Recognizing the mortal danger, the cultists scrambled to pool their dark energy in a desperate bid to hold their ground. But the sheer destructive force of my strike was absolute. As the divine seal collided with them, the demonic formation shattered instantly, fissures spreading like spiderwebs. With the enemy array broken, the morale of the Taishang disciples soared to a fever pitch. They roared in triumph, surging forward to unleash an even more relentless assault. At that very moment, dozens of terrifying auras descended upon the battlefield. Accompanied by these surging waves of power, a torrential rain of spirit energy flooded the firmament, streaking through the sky like meteors toward the demonic horde, manifesting as colossal blades of cyan light, or condensing into the forms of savage primeval beasts. Carrying a pressure that threatened to annihilate the heavens and the earth, crashing down upon the demonic cultivators with ruthless, crushing precision. Already in disarray from their broken formation, the cultists were shattered by this unexpected aerial bombardment, plunging into total, unmitigated panic. They frantically conjured defensive dark arts, manifesting twisted obsidian shields to ward off the tide of spirit energy that threatened to consume them. Yet, under the impact of such raw, overwhelming power, their defenses disintegrated in an instant. Light pierced their bodies, drowning the field in their final wretched cries. Upon witnessing these familiar auras, I recognized our rescuers immediately, allowing myself to fall back behind my disciples. Their swords were bolstered by the arrival of their masters. Their strikes grew increasingly lethal, the artifact in Situ Yingyu's hands dancing like a predatory dragon through the air. Wherever she moved, the limbs of the demonic cultivators were severed in a spray of blood. Merong Wanqing amplified her hexes, revealing ancient enigmatic runes shimmering within the emerald light. These runes acted like jagged blades, lacerating the flesh of the cultists and slowing their every movement to a crawl. The masters of those dozens of powerful auras finally emerged, revealed to be none other than the missing masters of the Taishang sect. And,